We are going to get started because it's a holiday week and everyone's got things to do. So, motion on the floor is to approve the agenda with the following changes. We are deleting the DC water night work hours. We are deleting the comments on the RA1 zoning text amendment, and this will be the order of our official actions. We're going to start with MacArthur and Arizona intersection letter. Then we're doing the Arizona bike lane reconfiguration NOI letter. Then we're doing the Foxhall and Reservoir intersection. Then we are doing DCPS changes to kindergarten enrollment and ending with the parking space addition request at CVS. Do I have a second?
Can I just
Second by Commissioner Blumenthal. Go ahead.
My apologies, fellow commissioners. I don't have the letter available. Hopefully by the time we get to it, I will. But the MacArthur High School construction team has requested additional work hours for the summer beyond what they've already been granted. So I can speak quickly about that. And hopefully
that will be the last item in official actions, and I will take that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
I just would also like to add the comment that the DC water night work hours and the comments on RA1 will be addressed by Commissioner Blumenthal and myself during commissioner updates, so everyone knows what's going on. All right, are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the amended agenda? All right, passes unanimously. As always, we are going to start with a traffic report from Officer McElwee.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, it looks like Captain Haskis is also entering the meeting.
Yes, he will be joining us. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us, as always. I'm Tony McElwee. I'm your traffic officer, and I attend all your community meetings every month. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to kind of be quick because I'm happy to say that our offenses this month in the last 30 days are down much from the months before. We did have 13 offenses for the last 30 days. 1 motor vehicle theft, 5 theft from automobiles, which is really down a lot. We still would like to see 0, but 5 versus the last time. I think we had 17 last month, and several general thefts. I'm going to start off with the motor vehicle theft. This occurred on June 25th between 6:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. from within the 1500 block of Elliott Place Northwest. Stolen was a 2019 Hyundai Tucson, white in color with DC tags. I was told by our CST stolen auto officer who is assigned these cases of stolen autos that this vehicle was broken into and the ignition was punched out. They did locate the vehicle the next day, not too far, over in the 4500 block of 40th Street in PSA 202. They're reviewing cameras for suspects. And if I learn of any more details or anything else, I will forward them at the next meeting. The theft from auto incidents occurred, and I'm going to read off the 5 locations, just in case your listeners live in any of these neighborhoods. June 26th, from the 5100 block of Washington Street, there was an overnight theft involving a bag that was left in the front seat of a vehicle that had its window down all night. And they stole the bag, which had a couple of car remotes in those bags. June 13th, between 11 a.m. and 12 midnight, from the 5100 block of Tilden Street, the suspect broke out a window and removed tools from inside the vehicle. June 10th, between 2 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon, from the 4700 block of Whitehaven Parkway, the vehicle's window was broken out and a computer was stolen. June 3rd, between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. from the 4300 block of Fordham Road, this vehicle window was also broken out and a blue bag was taken from inside. And the last one was June 3rd, between 4:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. from 5100 block of MacArthur Boulevard. The vehicle's window was broken out and a book bag was taken. In all these cases, there were items that were left inside these vehicles within plain view. We here at MPD want to remind everyone to please remove all valuables from site and lock and alarm your vehicles when left unattended. If you see anything suspicious, persons, vehicles, please don't hesitate to call 911. As I said, our theft on autos are down. I'm going to say they're down like 60%. We're trying to always get them down to zero, but always don't leave your guard down. The general thefts, most of them were theft of packages from the porches, areas of residence. We had 3 retail thefts from the CVS on MacArthur Boulevard, and there was a theft from a business, a yoga business in the 5185 MacArthur Boulevard. Someone left something unattended and it was taken. Moving into traffic enforcement, and then I'll take your questions. Pretty quiet month, although I've focused on the 4600 block of MacArthur Boulevard. Some of you may have already seen, they just repaved that section of the roadway. And when you repave a nice highway, and it looks really good, they did a great job. But speeds start to tick up. So we're going to put a big response out there. Well, big response. I'm going to be out there with some of my colleagues making a visible presence. I have personally seen the speeds tick up. I had a 53 mile an hour and a 52 mile an hour, which is very high speed, very high, 20, near 25 miles, double the speed limit. And we will be out there to address that. Finally, I'm working closely with Andrew Heimer, Commissioner Blumenthal. We're going to meet up next week to discuss some traffic calming solutions that we can share with the ANC 3D Transportation Committee about what we can do to try to stop these people from cutting through on Sharrier, the 5300 block of Sharrier, Carolina, Dorset, and Potomac. So those cars are avoiding the intersection of MacArthur and Arizona. So see if we can come up with some solutions on that. Combined with, I will still continue to get out there to monitor and stop some of these folks and create high visibility as well. With that said, I just want to touch base. Tomorrow, I'm going to be attending the hoedown at the Palisades Rec Center. Where I'll be judging the pie eating contest. Look forward to seeing everyone out there. And just to give you a heads up for the Palisades Parade, we're going to begin closing the road, MacArthur Boulevard, from basically Reservoir Road and MacArthur all the way down to Arizona, all the feeder streets. We're going to start closing them down around 9 a.m. on Friday. So, if you have vehicles that are parked out there, please remove them, because we're clearing all vehicles off that stretch of MacArthur Boulevard. And if they're there, we're going to relocate. And with that said, I'm open for questions, complaints, or concerns.
It looks like Commissioner Nowak wants to start off with some questions.
All right. Good afternoon, evening, Officer McElwee.
Good evening.
Thank you for your service as always. My monthly query about the intersection of Foxhall and Reservoir. I'm curious if the new pylons have helped at all with the left turn lane drivers proceeding straight, if you've had a chance to observe that at all.
I have not been out there to observe that, but I will get out there. I'm hoping they will give more people notice that, hey, you got to turn left. I will look into that. And I also invite you, Commissioner Nowak, if you want to jump in the car with me, we can go down there and collectively together, you can see firsthand. I'm around all next week.
Okay, I would like that. Yeah, that sounds great.
I will look at the pylons and see how it's affecting our traffic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go through the commissioners before I go to the general public. So Commissioner Elkins, you're up.
Thank you, well, sir. I certainly was glad to hear that you didn't have any incidents where contractors, I believe, had lost some of their materials. I just wanted to suggest that this is a period of the calendar when a lot of our residents are going to have construction and other service personnel around their homes, and to encourage our residents to tell these contractors they should lock their vehicles. My experience has been contractors have now heard about this and sometimes asked to be able to park in your driveway, et cetera, which is good, and we should try to encourage that. So I just wanted to mention that as a area of potential concern going forward during the summer.
Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner, and that's a good point. These contractors try to have them park their trucks if they can, if you have a driveway, in the driveway or directly in front of the house where they can see their truck or hear if the alarm goes off. That's a great point. Thank you, Commissioner Elkins.
All right, next up is Mr. Andrew Beath. Hello, you're up.
Hey, just a couple of questions or issues. So first, being the summer, I'm noticing a lot of e-bikes being ridden around, which is great, except for when they ride at speed on coming down some of our hills on the sidewalk. As you can imagine, that creates quite a danger should anybody step out from their yard onto the sidewalk, and at the same time an e-bike is coming past. I'm just wondering if that's something that would fall within your purview to police. I mean, it's not altogether very common, but I'm just wondering if you did see it, whether that's something you could kind of advise people that I believe this is illegal. It's illegal to ride e-bikes on sidewalks, although I'm not. It's a tricky law, so. Anyway, might need to look into that. The other issue I was just wondering about is I see a few cars with plate covers that seem like deliberately designed to foil the automated traffic enforcement. I'm just curious as to, if you see this, whether that's something that you're able to ticket. Because my understanding is that DPW, the parking enforcement, don't actually ticket that; they leave it to MPD. And so I'm just wondering if that's something that you sanction if you see that, how you deal with that.
Two great questions. I'll start off with your last question first. The cover tags happens to be a pet peeve of mine there, Andrew. And I do stop them. I wrote several, just two in the last 2 weeks. And what Andrew's talking about is the tags that folks put on try to block their license plate from the tag readers so they don't get tickets from the cameras. That is a $500 fine. It's called cover tags. And MPD does enforce that. I'm one of them. That is one of the enforcers. So yes, we do enforce that. The e-bikes have to stop the red lights. If they run a red light, they have to comply. Just like a pedestrian, but a pedestrian walks across against a crosswalk. We have notice of infractions for those particular areas, and we can enforce them. I usually like to try to be a little diplomatic, and if I can stop them and just say, "Hey, look, don't you can hurt yourself or what have you." And by the way, I could cite you $5 or $10 infraction, but still, fine's a fine. But yes, they are subject to penalties under the Civil Act of Notices of Infractions. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So just specifically about the e-bikes on the sidewalk, do you know what the rule is on that? Are they allowed to ride e-bikes, at sort of high speed, 15 odd mile an hour on the sidewalk, or is there?
Nobody really should be going high speeds, but there are certain areas in the city, usually downtown business areas, and you can go on. There's a website. We'll tell you where they can be, like down Boggy Bottom. You can't ride on the sidewalks, stuff like that. But like MacArthur Boulevard, they're allowed to ride on the sidewalk. It doesn't apply to that street.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Simkowitz, I'm going to let you jump in.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to address Mr. Beast's question. Our city council has not made that a felony, meaning obscuring your license plate with the purpose of defrauding the people of the District of Columbia. And the District of Columbia Council is 100% to blame for this. They could have made it a felony, and they don't. So I advise everybody that's concerned about this to talk to our council people.
Thank you. Commissioner Roosevelt?
Is there a speed limit for the e-bikes? Or I know in some other cities there's like an automated cap, but I don't think we have that given how many different ones are operating in DC. But is there like a certain speed they can't go at?
That's a good question, Commissioner Roosevelt. I don't know. I don't think there is. I know Captain Haskis is out there somewhere. Cap, do you want to jump in or?
He has
Yep.
been responsive.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
So, yeah, bicycles obviously outside the central business district are allowed, but they have to be driven safely. So it's been a while, I'll be frank, since I've ticketed a cyclist, but uh, basically unsafe acts on the sidewalk uh, can be ticketed, and there's a whole big list of them. I can, let's see here. I'll drop in the chat the whole the citation for it, but it's in the DCMR on safely operating bicycles. Obviously, whether it be an e-bike or a regular bike, you can't drive it in an unsafe manner in a sidewalk, and police officers who observe that can ticket the individual.
Thank you. Commissioner Blumenthal, did you want to jump in? Oh, you just actually muted yourself. I think you were unmuted.
Take the boy out of his normal environment and he can't operate a computer anymore. The rental e-bikes in DC are speed limited, but they're speed limited at 20 miles an hour, which is, you know, not a safe speed on a sidewalk. The rental bikes that people own, there are different classes in DC, and I am not an expert in what the laws are there, but I think it's a valid point that you can go too fast on a sidewalk with an e-bike. It's an argument for more protected bike lanes.
Our DDOT
I digress.
liaison, Christoph Wassmer, has just posted in the chat the regulations. Thank you for that. I love research. I'm going to go to Miss Tursoff, Janet Tursoff.
Hi. You mentioned the parking on MacArthur Boulevard for the parade. Is that on both sides or just the side the parade goes down?
Both sides. We used to do the outbound lane, but now we've changed it to both sides. All traffic, there's no traffic to be parked, no cars to be parked on both sides.
Okay.
And that'll go until about 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else's hand raised, but I will see you, Officer McElwee, at the hoedown, and hopefully you, Captain Haskis. I will be there for the
All
whole
right.
time.
Looking for a great time. See you tomorrow and at the parade. Stay safe. Have a great 4th of July, everyone.
Thank you.
I'll see everyone there as well. I won't be participating in the pie eating contest though.
We'll
Not
save you a
this year.
slice anyway. We'll save you a slice.
All right. Have a great evening.
All right, thank you. And speaking of the parade, up next is our moker Owen Cox. And I don't know if you're here by yourself or if Kendall's here, but if you can unmute and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. My name is William Owen Cox. I'm the Ward 3 liaison for the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. Let me put my info in the chat just in case anyone needs to reach out to me. So for announcements, nothing except the parade. I met with Commissioner Duncan earlier today to discuss some logistics. And then after that, I walked the parade route up and then back down to check for any issues that I could flag. Nothing major. There was a tree branch down, so I flagged that to our management and I put in a 311 request. So that hopefully will be addressed. It's at MacArthur and Cushing place. But aside from that, no big announcements other than I will be at the pie eating contest and participating. So I'm excited for that. So I'll be dashing over after I finish up at the office tomorrow and looking forward to it. So yeah, that's it for me, but I'm available for any questions. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. I did see that you had signed up for the pie eating contest, so well done. Without any questions, I'm just going to move the meeting along and I will see you tomorrow. Up next is Ward 3 Council Member Matt Freeman's office, and I believe Nora Charles is here.
I am. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So Today and throughout this week, the council is in the middle of budget work sessions as we work towards approving the budget. But the Committee on Human Services, which Councilmember Freeman chairs, has concluded its agency budget oversight hearings at this time and its budget markup session as well. So just a few weeks ago, the council received the mayor's proposed budget, and this committee alone faced $63 million in reductions over last year. But in the face of these challenges, the committee was able to protect many of the critical programs our neighbors rely on most, including the Department of Human Services, the DC Public Library, and the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. The committee's budget recommendations focused on protecting and strengthening these core functions. And we have a copy of the committee report and recommendations, and I'll put that in the chat, but it's also on the council members' website. So that's mattfreemanward3.com. And then the committee page. There were some really significant cuts in the mayor's budget to DC Public Libraries. I think it was going to be operating 5 days a week from 9 to 5, and his committee restored it to 7 days a week, and some staff and other programs. But you can read more on our website. Next Wednesday, so the 9th, our office will hold its next workday. In the ward with constituent services. It's different from Workday in the ward. It's only constituent service staff. The event will be held at Cleveland Park Library, which is on Connecticut Avenue, from 4 to 7 p.m. Residents are welcome to come by and meet with the team during that time. And if you need assistance with any DC government service, our problem solvers will be available in person and eager to provide help. That's Ashley, Shantice, and Santiago for those of you that know them and those of you that have yet to meet them. The Palisades Community Association will host the 59th annual 4th of July Parade and Picnic, which we're also attending. So the parade starts at the intersection of Whitehaven Parkway and MacArthur Boulevard at 11 a.m. on Friday. The parade turns right onto MacArthur Boulevard, continues past Dana Place, takes a left on Edmonds, a left on Sherrier, and ends at the Palisades Rec Center. I mean, commissioners know all about this more than I do, but I can link the event page for more information. Residents are welcome to join our team and walk in the parade, and I can put the link if you want to RSVP to our offices section of the parade in the chat. And lastly, our next Ward 3 newsletter will go out tomorrow, the 3rd, with updates on the budget, the work of the Committee on Human Services, as well as updates from other district agencies and community events. You can always sign up for our newsletter at mattfreemanward3.com. And that's all from us.
Thank you. Without seeing any hands raised, I'm going to move on, but thank you for that. And we will see you at the parade on the 4th.
We'll see you there.
Thank you. So we have a lot of items on our agenda for the Department of Transportation. I'm going to ask Christoph, do you have anything that you want to say outside of the things that we are discussing that you want to update us on, or shall we move on and we'll hear from you later?
I have no updates, so willing to move on to the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, we are moving on to higher education. Is there anyone here from AU? It's usually Jason Millison. I do not see him. GW, Kevin Days or Gwen, also not here. Wesley's not here, and it doesn't look like, is anyone here from Georgetown? Corey Peterson
to represent Georgetown.
Oh, great. Mr. Castro, thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and hope you're all enjoying the nice-ish weather today. Not a lot of updates from Georgetown, but just wanted to keep you all informed that our redevelopment of Henley Village is still on track for a fall opening. We're hoping to have an open house for those interested in seeing it before students move in mid-August or thereabouts before the semester begins. We'll obviously share more information with the group, but keep an eye out for more to come. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll drop my email in the chat.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about Georgetown? All right. It's good to have you here. Thanks for showing up. I am going to move on to the German embassy construction update. I see that Mr. Speecher is here. Welcome.
Hello, yes, good evening. Well, I can keep it pretty short. Construction is really moving on very smoothly, weather allowing. It was some very hot days. I really regretted those workers outside there in the heat. And but it's working smoothly, and we don't have any complaints from the neighborhood. Also, I think the parking hasn't been or the driveways haven't been blocked by our workers. So it's going on very well. No complaints.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or concerns for Mr. Speecher? I take this as a sign that you guys are doing something right. So
Perfect.
I
Thank
do
you
have
so much.
one question. Do you have an estimated completion date?
We are estimating the works finishing end of October, beginning of November. Whether we never know what the weather will bring, but this is our plans. There were some small delays because they didn't find the right composture of the concrete walls, and they had to do lots of several mock-ups. But now we are hoping for end of October, beginning of November.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. It really is just a testament that you care about the surrounding community. So we really appreciate
Definitely.
it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Are there any other local civic associations that are here who want to speak? Please raise your hand. Also, okay, so we're on to commissioner updates. I'm going to go backwards this week. Commissioner Simkwitz.
I don't have anything.
Great. Commissioner Nowak.
Only a brief PSA that the DC Tag Scholarship Fund remains open. Note the earlier closure date this year of August 15th. So if your child is headed to a state university or an HBCU, please do fill out your paperwork to collect your $10,000 tag scholarship by August 15th.
Excellent. Commissioner Horn is not here, so Commissioner Blumenthal.
Thank you. I have two things. One very briefly, for those who live anywhere near the Galena Road end of the trolley trail, know that there was a massive amount of wood chips dumped there by well-intentioned, meant for the project that's been ongoing for 2 years to spread chips along the trail, but way, way, way too much and more than we could use. And thanks to the efforts of Joseph Burkle at Urban Forester for DDOT, those chips were removed the last 2 days. So I just wanted to pass along to Christoph and the other folks from DDOT to express our thanks for how expeditious they were in getting that resolved. Second, Andrew Heimert and I met with folks from DC Water, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, just to update the community. They are going to be conducting an emergency rehabilitation, repair, and construction project on a sanitary sewer line that runs under the Clara Barton Parkway over the summer, or perhaps as late as September. They expect this project to last about 3 months. The thing that might affect us is they need to close one lane of a portion of the Clara Barton Parkway, and then we'll do one-way operations when we do this that'll extend just beyond the chain bridge to a little section of canal. The important thing and what we insisted on is that the traffic control plan from DDOT mandate that any lane closures occur at night between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. so they do not cause disruptions to driving during the rush hours that when we get massive backup traffic off of Canal Road. Given the emergency nature of the project, and the potential disruptions and the mitigation that they will take to those disruptions, we've encouraged DDOT to provide approval. So that is my update.
Thank you for that. It was, I'd like to applaud you and Commissioner Heimert. And I'd just like to point out to the community that this is something that ANCs do. DC Water came to us and every single alarm bell in our heads went off because a lane closure on Canal because of a fender bender means gridlock in our neighborhood. So we are looking out for our neighbors. I just want to point that out. I have an update also. The Zoning Commission is considering a whole slew of text amendments. One of them is for the zoning RA1. This is, I believe, most of the zoning in Foxhall Village. It allows row houses and 3-story separated condo buildings like you would have at McLean Gardens. And the zoning regulations every so often need to be tweaked because projects come up and they're not that clear when they start talking about different scenarios. So the RA1 text amendment is a standalone text amendment, and I'm going to actually go over the changes that they're proposing very quickly. We will be voting on this because we have a lot of RA1 in our ANC. So the first one is pretty easy. Right now, if you are building RA1, let's say you own all this land and you build 20 row house units or townhouse units, if you want to opt in to inclusionary zoning, meaning you want to provide some affordable, you actually have to go to the BZA to get approval for that. But they are going to let people opt in without having to go for approval. They want everyone to do it. So they're reducing that barrier to provide affordable housing. The next thing they want to do is they want to make new residential development in RA1 with multiple dwelling unit developments as a matter of right. I am looking further into this, but if I am reading it correctly, if someone buys a big undeveloped RA1 lot and they want to build row houses or like a McLean Gardens type development, they have to go to the BZA for approval, even if they meet all of the zoning regulations. And the zoning commission is wanting to make these developments, if you follow all of the zoning regulations with setback, height, density, whatever, that it is matter of right and you do not have to go to the BZA for that. So that is probably the biggest change. And then there are clarifying of filing fees, and there's some minutia for like application requirements, which I'm going to dive deeper into. But I think we should weigh in on this because I know in my SMD, there's an RA1 parcel that just got sold that has a single family home on it. And I think that this is going to impact all of us. Do I have any questions on the RA1 before I move on to the omnibus? Okay, so we all got this. Go ahead, Quentin.
So if it's a matter of right and they don't have to go to the BCA, then we don't have any opportunity to weigh in, right? Because we send our letters to the BCA. So it would just be, they would just build. Okay, that's interesting.
Just like a single family home buys a vacant lot, and if they follow all the rules, we don't get a say. They just want to make it like that.
So they would still have to abide by all the setback rules that exist in RA1 today. Just instead of one unit, it could be multiple dwellings within that footprint.
Yes. It would be hard to do a big development without having to go to the BZA, but it is a possibility. Someone could design something within the zoning regulations that doesn't require a variance. And in this case, they would not have to come before the ANC or seek any community input. So the next one, we all got this email about this omnibus text amendment, and I really have to hand it to Commissioner Horn because he keeps on top of these things. There are about 25 tiny text amendments that are hoping to shore up language to relieve pressure off the zoning commission and the BZA. I did a 2-hour seminar and gave some initial feedback because maybe 5 of them affect our ANC. I gave some initial comments that I thought that we would all be interested in. They just gave us the set down report. I posted it to, no, the set down report was for the RA1. That was just published. There has been no set down report for the omnibus, but when it comes, I am going to send it around to the commission. I'm going to post it online, and we all are going to be wanting to discuss like some of them are ADU setbacks. Some of them have to do with parking for commercial developments. A number of things I think we're going to care about. So be on the lookout for that for August and September. If we have a meeting in August, I'm hoping we don't have to meet, but just in case. All right, those are my updates. So Commissioner Roosevelt, do you have anything?
I don't have anything right now.
All right, Commissioner Elkins?
No, thank you. I have nothing.
Okay. All right, we are going on to our discussion. Thank you all for being so patient. I am going to introduce, actually, I am going to have Catherine call them up so they can introduce themselves. The slope stabilization project for Canal Road has been on ANC 3D's radar for quite some time because most of our residents drive there, walk there, try to bike there. We are going to have a ton of questions for you. So we're hoping that you can give us an overview of the project, and then I'm sure you're going to hopefully be prepared for a bunch of questions. Welcome, Mr. Jordan. We're going to let you take it away.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Hadia Jordan with DC Water's Clean Rivers Project. I'm the Senior Public Outreach Coordinator. Thank you, ANC 3D, for giving us time tonight to present. My co-presenter tonight is Matt Woniak. He's the traffic engineer. To assist us with answering questions are our lead Clean Rivers engineers on the project, John Cassidy and Amanda Morgan, and my partner in outreach is Amanda Zander. So, beginning in the late summer of 2025, DC Water will perform slope stabilization work along Canal Road Northwest. Tonight, we'll give you some background information about the project. You'll get information about the project scope and renderings. I will give you construction impacts, and then we'll go into the question portion. So DC Water is focusing on the area of Canal Road between the entrance to Georgetown University and Foxhall Road. The yellow arrow highlights the area where soil and rocks has slid down the slope onto the sidewalk and roadway.
Excuse me, Ms.
Do you want to share your presentation?
We do not see the presentation.
Okay, 1 second, please. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you for calling me out on that. So,
it's okay. It's okay.
So this yellow arrow represents the area where the slope has experienced some rock sliding. This area right here is the sidewalk. The only sidewalk on Canal Road is on the north side. So DC Water understands that there's been a long history of rock slides and shallow landslides in this area. In 2011, rock slide occurred on Clark Road, which is just west of Foxhall. It caused a road closure and created risk to motorists. In 2014, Schnabel did a study for DDOT and were able to present some options to improve its stability. And then in 2020 and 2021, there were again other superficial landslides in that area, 2 more. So DDOT has found that the slope represents a hazard to public safety. So DC Water Clean Rivers Project is constructing the Potomac River Tunnel. It connects to the Anacostia River Tunnel system, which has been in operation since 2018. It starts here at CSO 29. So these areas, these numbered areas, are the locations where the tunnel will connect to the outfalls, which are numbered along the Potomac River. This is a consent decree project, which means that we have a deadline that goes with it in 2030. This is the largest contract that DC Water has had up to this point. So in 2026, in the beginning of 2026, we will come to the top of the slope area to mobilize for our construction site at CSO 29. As you can see, this blue arrow, this blue line here is the tunnel, and we'll create a large shaft at this location. It's necessary for us to meet this schedule of starting at the beginning of 2026 to be able to meet the February 23 consent decree deadline for us. So DC Water thought that it made more sense for it to go ahead and stabilize the slope ahead of doing the construction work for the tunnel. So the slope stabilization work will begin in the summer, late summer of 2025, and it'll continue through 2026. We hope to have the major part of the work done in December 2025. So to do this work, DC Water will drill approximately 725 steel rods into the slope. They'll be about 7 feet apart. And then it will cover that area with a secured steel mesh, which will be bolted down. To do this, the construction process begins with setting up our maintenance of traffic. Then we begin to remove the trees and vegetation along the slope. We'll remove the loose materials from the slope, which is called scaling. We'll begin the work of drilling and grouting the bolts into the slope, followed by hydroseeding the slope. Then we'll lay the mesh on top, and afterwards, we'll replant trees at the top of the area. And then we'll remove the maintenance of traffic. This restoration includes returning the sidewalk and the road to the pre-existing conditions. So you may have seen something similar as you've driven through West Virginia or the mountainous area of New York. This is an example of what we're going to be doing. This is an eroded slope. Afterwards, this is the mesh covering the slope. And you can see these little dots here are the bolts to hold it in place. And this is the new green growth after, planting the hydro seeds. We definitely want to say thank you to all the property owners who've worked with us closely on this project. That includes Georgetown University, WMATA, DDOT, and National Park Service. So just to give you a little bit more information about the construction and the impacts, we'll begin in late 2025, late summer 2025, and finish in February 2026. Our work hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday. There may be some night work for particular activities, but we will inform the community of those hour changes. The sidewalk will be closed along Canal Road. We'll provide a shuttle service with ADA capability, and we'll have more information in a slide upcoming. Matt Woniak will go through that detail. And the C&O Canal path will remain open. So for the traffic, he'll share more details, but the 4-lane Canal Road will be reduced to 3 lanes. 1 lane will be reversible. It'll have PM hours for 3 PM to 7 PM, where there'll be 2 lanes outbound and 1 inbound. Then during the other times in the morning, 1 lane outbound and 2 lanes inbound. For limited periods, we may have to reduce the Canal Road to 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction. But again, when we make changes like that, we will inform the community of that detail. These operations and the timing may be adjusted based on our consultation with DDOT and stakeholders. So work will be prohibited during the federal holidays, and our outreach team will keep the community informed of traffic pattern changes in the schedule. Matt, would you like to take this area?
Okay. Let me finish up and then we'll take questions here on these next 3 slides to explain the traffic patterns and like that.
Okay.
I get one of the in order to complete the construction, this is a very narrow area. You have very steep slopes. We have limited right of way with only the sidewalk being about 4 to 5 feet wide. So unfortunately, the lane closest to the sidewalk, the westbound lane, will need to be closed during this whole process. And so that will reduce it to a 3-lane section in that area. But what we're going to try to do is create a temporary, we're going to pave part of the median so that traffic can transition from one side to the other. And that would be the first step in the process. So during most of the time, during the AM, during the off-peak, during the night, during the weekends, and during holidays, there would still maintain, just as you do today, 2 lanes going eastbound throughout the whole area. And the left turn into Georgetown University would remain open as such. But the one thing during this time periods, again, the weekends, holidays, and off-peak, there would only be 1 outbound lane to handle this, and the sidewalk would be closed in that area. Now, the crossover would occur before Foxhall Road. When I say before, right where the yellow dot roughly is where the crossover would occur, and then the same on the other side. But during the other period, if you go to the next slide, from 3 to 7, what will happen is that there'll be just 1 lane going eastbound and 2 lanes going westbound. So as traffic from the west headed westbound, the lanes will split such that 1 lane will continue on the westbound roadway and 1 lane will cross over to the eastbound roadway for about 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet in there, and then cross back over by the yellow dot up there. So that will be the operation. In order to handle the pedestrians and bicyclists that utilize Canal Road through this point, we're proposing on operating a shuttle that will operate 24/7. This will be 4 12-person passengers shuttle buses of the area. It'll be ADA accessible. It'll be able to transport bikes, and there'll be signs placed to when to call and all the shuttle. Use will be monitored and with DDOT throughout the process. There will be 2 shuttle stops, one located near the right turn out of Georgetown University by the driveway, and one located near the intersection of MacArthur, Foxhall, and 44th Street. The path will remain open underneath near the Glover Archibald Trailhead. So for people who have the option of riding bikes or taking that onto. So that is a brief overview of what will be from a pedestrian, bicycle, and traffic standpoint. So now we'll open up the questions.
Before we take questions, I just
Oh, I'm
want to
sorry.
make sure
Yep.
to encourage everyone to please take our email address and our phone number. Both Amanda and I will be able to receive your emails. If you would like to get updates about the work, please make sure you send us an email to this dccleanrivers@dcwater.com. Let us know that you would like to receive updates for the slope stabilization, and we'll add you to our database. All right, we'll take
Okay.
questions.
Thank you very much. My first question, and then we're going to go through everybody's raised hands, and we can probably turn off the sharing, and we'll bring up. We can bring up graphics as we need. What is the thinking behind not improving the woefully inadequate sidewalk that's there, since you're going to be doing so much manipulation on the slope?
Well, I'll say that it has to do with schedule as well and our scope with DDOT. So we want to make sure that we complete the project on time. And John Cassidy, would you like to answer that?
Hi, I'm John Cassidy. I guess one of the engineers working on the project with DC Water. There is not a substantial change to the grading that we're making as part of this project on the slope. There's really just minor removal of loose materials and then bolting the mesh and installing the bolts. In order to kind of improve the sidewalk or make a major change, I think one, that would be a DDOT project to affect the right of way. And second, would require a lot of additional work with a lot of the property owners. DDOT does not own or control the property along the entire north face of the alignment. The majority property owners are portion of DDOT and a portion is National Park Service. So it's a much more large and complicated project in order to expand the right of way and kind of a permanent feature to expand the sidewalk. And that's not something that I guess DC Water can do. And I guess secondly, it's probably not practical to do within the time frame we need to in order to build the tunnel project and meet the consent decree.
Mm-hmm.
I will just warn you right now that we're going to be pushing really hard for that sidewalk because we've been wanting it for a long time. I don't think that portions of that sidewalk meet ADA, so just be aware that that's coming fast and furious. Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, I want to go back to the lane shifts. I'm especially concerned about the afternoon rush hour. That area is a hot mess when all of the lanes are open. And now, if I'm understanding the explanation correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to have one eastbound lane in the afternoon that would have to be shared by both Key Bridge and Whitehurst Freeway drivers. And then the second lane would have them coming left off of the Key Bridge into where? Into what's currently the middle lane?
Okay, if you're going westbound, there'll be 2 lanes in the afternoon. And eastbound, it'll open up, it'll be 1 lane through basically the yellow area shown on the screen. And then it'll open back up to 2 lanes by the Whitehurst Freeway and Key Bridge.
Okay, so it's just as far as the entrance to the university that it would be the 1 lane inbound and it'll be 2 lanes outbound.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and then in the morning, it would be the opposite. It would be 2 lanes inbound and 1 lane outbound in the morning.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Is there some kind of like, are you going to be moving like a barrier? Are there flaggers? How is that going to happen?
Yeah, they're going to be moving drums and putting delineators between the lanes on the section of Canal Road. So every day at roughly 2:33 between there, they'll be setting up the MOT and then resetting it up around 7:30 and changing it back.
So just to give a heads up, and this will not surprise anybody, but this is going to be, I originally was concerned about the afternoon. I'm thinking more about it. I'm more concerned about the morning because there is a steady stream of traffic that comes across the Key Bridge and then heads north on, heads west on Canal Road and then head north on Foxhall, because Canal Road is all lanes inbound west of this intersection,
Yes.
obviously. So I anticipate major backups across the Key Bridge. And what sort of mitigation techniques are you going to be using to keep this
Well,
just to create,
different. We're going to through Hadia's group, and that we will be going out through a marketing campaign, telling people that they expect delays through this area. There will be also portable message signs to tell people that this delay is occurring through here. And those are the kind of things that we will try to do as best to notify people in advance so they could find alternate routes to get through the area.
Yes, we have
and
a
then the
pretty,
last, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Hadida.
I was just going to say we have a pretty extensive outreach campaign, which will continue to meet with other community groups, such as the ANCs like you did. We'll meet with Georgetown Bid, we'll meet with the Mokers and the council member's office. We want to make sure that they're aware. We have a database in which we will send updates to. We'll send out media advisories as well. And as Max said, we will have signage out to give people a heads up ahead of time that this work is coming. So we want to give people time to identify some alternative routes.
Okay. The last question has to do with the hours of operation. So in our presentation a few minutes ago about the work that was happening further down on Canal Road, they are going to work in the overnight hours to help alleviate the rush hour. Can you talk to us about the overnight hours, and was that a consideration? Is that still available as a possibility in lieu of working, during commuting hours?
Yeah, so we considered and tried to figure out a way to work during night hours and then set the traffic back up so all 4 lanes were available during daylight hours. And I think one of the restrictions and one of the considerations is that this is not a normal project. There's a slope that is unstable at the time. There's scaling and there's a potential for rock and debris for coming off that slope. So in working with DDOT, I don't think any engineer was really comfortable having traffic immediately against that work. So there just wasn't the right-of-way width to be able, in practicality, to be able to set up maintenance of traffic every night, because the type of barriers that we're talking about are pretty substantial to prevent rock falls from coming off the slope and impacting pedestrians or people in vehicles. So it just really was not practical to set up a ton of Jersey barriers every night and every day and make that flipping of the permanent kind of Jersey barriers in a practical way to be able to get construction done within a reasonable amount of time. And I see a lot of criticism, and not criticism, just concern about traffic in the comments, and I totally get that. And I guess I'm trying to say that we've spent a lot of time with DDOT trying to figure out what to do. There is just, the fact is there's limited right-of-way width, right? You got 4 lanes and a very small sidewalk. So we went through the options, a lot of the options that I guess I see in the chat of, could we close 2 lanes, maintain pedestrian traffic, and only work on 1 lane? And there was a significant debate within DDOT about what was the best case, trading off those relative merits. And kind of where we ended up in working with DDOT was the best balance of pedestrian traffic and public safety was to close 1 lane and to have 1 reversible lane and to run the shuttle. So I know that that's not probably the best or most optimum. It doesn't satisfy everyone's needs, but that was the trade-off of kind of all the best case we could come up with given the limitations of the width of the area.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Roosevelt?
Yes, for more clarification on the shuttle, do you have to call it?
Yeah, so I can explain it. So the idea is the shuttle's always there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It parks at the Foxhall location, so it is there 24 hours, 7 days a week. So anyone who walks up on the Foxhall location would see the shuttle there and arrive at. The reason we're having the number is we kind of did not want to have a second shuttle sitting in front of Georgetown University and blocking traffic. So if a pedestrian on the GU Georgetown side is coming to the west and the shuttle is not parked there, there'd be a phone number on the sign that you could call or text. The shuttle would go from the Foxhole location to pick them up at the GU location and do the loop. So the shuttle is always there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The reason for the phone number is if the shuttle doesn't happen to be at the correct stop.
So if someone was on the shuttle, how do they access the tunnel to get down to the K Street bike lanes?
The tunnel portion would not be closed. I mean, if you you can go see the map, you can still walk along the sidewalk, correct map, and get to the tunnel going under Canal Road. So for, I guess, people who are not do not require a wheelchair and all that, the tunnel under Canal Road is a viable option to get down to the C&O path. That is an option. It's just not ADA accessible, and it's not really practical to make ADA accessible within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, but I
For
don't
the
know how-
people coming from Foxhall Road.
Correct.
Yeah.
So people coming from Foxhall, how would they get to the tunnel?
From Foxhall, they can get to the tunnel. From Georgetown say the driveway at Georgetown University, that's where the sidewalk will be blocked off from the right turn lane there.
So
The sidewalk is
the
not-
sidewalk will still be open from Foxhall to the tunnel.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Elkins?
This is not an area of any expertise, but it seems to me, on my part, but it seems to me that people coming off the Key Bridge are going to be inclined to turn into Georgetown and then try to come up through Georgetown and try to avoid this. I assume you're dealing with all of our colleagues in Georgetown to try to deal with this. I mean, you talk about in your presentation that people will have to find alternative means. It doesn't occur to me that there are very many alternative ways to come from Arlington into Northwest Washington, up Foxhall Road without going through this intersection. So I think the alternative will be Georgetown, and I hope that you're thinking about ways to facilitate the traffic through Georgetown. Although I don't live there, I would be worried about it if I did.
Commissioner Blumenthal?
I want to use my prerogative and yield to Transportation Committee Chair Heimert, and then I'd like my time back.
All right. Andrew Heimert is the co-chair of our Transportation Committee and is really smart. Mr. Heimert, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
Yes.
I might be able to. Catherine, can we unmute him?
I'm sending him messages, but
I hit unmute, you remuted me.
Oh.
And sorry about that. It doesn't come up very well on my iPad. Two observations. One, I share Commissioner Duncan's serious concern that nothing will be done to widen the sidewalk. This seems like a once in a generation, if not once in a century type of project. And that stretch of sidewalk is very narrow there, and it's been narrowed by this rock fall, and making no provision whatsoever to make it wider. I mean, it's already quite narrow. It is really unfortunate. And I'll direct that to DDOT as well, if these are discussions you've been having. And I think that's something I would really hope that you would all find a way to make work. I'm not particularly satisfied by we've got to meet the time of the consent decree. I mean, this project has been going on for over a decade, and you're now coming to us in July about something you're going to do in October, November, December. You could have planned that better. And here we are, and just move fast, figure it out. But I also want to raise the serious concern about this shuttle as an alternative to a sidewalk. This is a pretty well-used sidewalk despite its serious limitations. And you're proposing that joggers, walkers, cyclists have to call a shuttle, I guess load their bike in a shuttle if they're a cyclist, just to go 300 feet, 400 feet. Maybe they have to go up the hill, come back down the hill to get to the tunnel to the Capitol Crescent Trail. This seems wildly impractical as compared to providing at least there's not much space now, so you could provide at least that much in the lanes, take out some more median if you need to, and use that 3 feet to provide a safe passage for pedestrians along the road. I mean, it seems to me that's got to be feasible. And if it's not, figure out a way to make it feasible.
Commissioner Blumenthal?
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I had a feeling Andrew would be more thoughtful and considered than I am about to be. I will be very brief because I want to let the other members of the community speak, but I'll up from concern to criticism. This sounds like a once in a lifetime opportunity to fix a very, very bad sidewalk. Where there are utility poles in the middle of something too narrow to be traversed safely by both bicycles and by both cyclists and pedestrians. We heard in this meeting not 30 minutes ago about the danger of e-bikes on a sidewalk. E-bike on that sidewalk would be close to homicide. And you're going to take all the trees out and you're going to create 3 to 4 or 5 months, these things always get delayed, of utter chaos in the morning and the afternoon. I hope you're aware there's a high school, there's the lab school, there are 4 or 5 different elementaries that DC residents and others and Virginians commute to in the morning. They don't have another route, most of them. And what we're going to say, well, great, we did a great PR drive. Everything's great. And we're going to put up with all of that. And you cannot find the ability to throw a bone to the people who use that sidewalk to widen it. Yeah, criticism. So thank you.
I do want to let the community know that this also seems to be a DDOT thing. And I hope DDOT, your representatives that are here, you're taking notes because you're going to hear from us. Commissioner Simkowitz sent me a text. He would like to speak.
Thank you, Chairperson Duncan. We have had this issue for many years. I've been a commissioner for almost 8 years now, and we've had this come up, I think, every term that I've been a commissioner. One of the solutions was the trolley trestle trail, which we can't seem to get on board with. Not our commission, we've supported it 100%, but the DC government, WMATA, the National Park Service, and Georgetown University, I think we really ought to be explaining how this problem will affect just the things, the bicycle transportation, the pedestrians. Nobody is going to want to call a shuttle bus when you're walking 300 feet. I mean, that's a crazy idea. And if you have a bike, you're not going to want to do that. You just want to get to where you're going. So I support Mr. Heimert for his opposition, which again is much more eloquent than I could ever do. But we should really focus on the city and everyone else to get the trolley trestle trail built, because that would take the pressure off of this sidewalk that has been inadequate for my entire life, frankly.
So before we get to the 2 other things, is there someone here from National Park Service? I thought there was. And are they here about this?
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Nick Bartolomeo. I'm the resource manager at Rock Creek Park. Rock Creek Park manages the Park Service land along Canal Road in that area.
So you are familiar with the trolley trestle bridge then?
Oh, yes. I have been involved in that for a good portion of my career.
So you all just, put out an NOI to give WMATA permission to tear it down. Like, are you seeing the need from the community here?
National Park Service doesn't own the bridge. The National Park Service doesn't own the bridge.
But nobody can tear it down without your permission.
They need permission in order to access the property. But it's WMATA's bridge. It has to be WMATA's decision. The National Park Service doesn't own the bridge. So it's WMATA coming to us to ask for permission to use federal land in order to do this action. That's the extent of the National Park Service's involvement in this. That's what we give WMATA a permit for. Again, it's to clarify, we don't own the bridge.
Right, but WMATA can't tear it down. Commissioner Simkowitz.
Thank you. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? The National Park Service will not allow WMATA to tear down the bridge and then build another one. Is that correct?
No, that's not even before us. What's before us is WMATA's request to come in and use federal land in order to access an area they can tear down the bridge safely in. It's got nothing to do with the National Park Service allowing or not allowing a bridge to go back in there. In fact, the National Park Service has been on record from the beginning saying we fully support a way to conserve this bridge. But you have to remember that the bridge is a serious safety issue. That is why it is fenced off. And it is in danger of falling down and has been for some time. So our goal is to create a safe environment, reopen the trail that runs underneath the bridge right now, and follow the process for WMATA's request to use federal parkland to take down the bridge.
But if WMATA wants to instead do what they think is economically sensible, economically prudent to tear down the bridge, would NPS allow them to put a new bridge in the place of the old bridge? Because that might be the cheapest way to take care of this whole problem. Let them build a
That
new
hasn't, DDOT went through that feasibility study, and I think it's instructive to talk to DDOT about that. And they said that is a possibility, but that isn't something that they would do. All right. They have opted not to do that. And so no one's come to National Park Service with a plan that says, hey, we're going to fund a new bridge where this one was before. So that's not even on the table right now.
But if they did come to the National Park Service, if they said, hey, National Park Service, we want to tear down this bridge that's falling apart and we want to build a new bridge, which may be cheaper than rebuilding the old bridge or restoring the old bridge, fixing it, whatever you want to use the term, would you let WMATA or the DC government build a new bridge in place of the one that might be torn down?
And Commissioner, it's not a matter of whether we would let it. It's a process that we would have to go through. If someone came to us to make that request, then it is a process that we would follow to consider that. But again, the National Park Service doesn't own the bridge, and it doesn't own most of the land that bridge sits on. WMATA owns most of that land. That's part of their right of way. The area where you have the trestle portion, the pond that extends without any towers, that's where the National Park Service's land is. We have a few towers on it, but those abutments and the steel towers, they're not on our property.
But the problem is that I've seen in following this issue for 6 or 7 years now is that the problem has been the National Park Service not being creative in letting us either tear down the bridge or build a new one.
That's not correct. And I think this is definitely a discussion for another time, but that's not correct. The National Park Service is working on a permit, the application that WMATA gave us in order to tear down the structure. That is the action that's in front of us now. It's not to build another bridge. It's not to do anything else. It's WMATA's request to come in and remove that structure. And that's what we're dealing with. That's what we have been dealing with for the last, again, like you said, like 6 or 7 years. It's been almost 10 years.
All right, so I'm going to move on because we do want to talk about this project. But I think if I could recap what Commissioner Simkowitz is trying to ask is, we are afraid that if this bridge gets torn down, NPS would never let a new bridge go up there. But what I'm hearing from you is someone needs to apply for us to even determine if that is possible.
It's not been something that's been presented. DEA has explicitly rejected that option. Nobody else has come along and said, hey, this is what we want to do. Well, WMATA still owns that bridge. That's their bridge to make a determination on.
We understand that.
And they haven't said it either. I'm sorry?
We understand that. We know who
Thank
owns, we are familiar with who owns the bridge.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Tursoff, you're up.
Hi. In all the talking about outreach to various people who might be affected by this change, I did not hear any mention of outreach to residents of Virginia, because it sounds like they're going to be really seriously affected if they take Key Bridge, and they need to know, maybe they can take Chain Bridge. Of course, that has repercussions for the other end of the Palisades, but I just want to make sure that this information is going out to residents of Virginia.
Yes, our outreach definitely includes reaching out to Maryland and Virginia, as well as those in DC.
Sort of a quick follow-up on that, because Ms. Tursoff brings up the project happening near Chainbridge. Are the timing on these two projects such that they won't both be happening at the same time?
Probably need to get back to you on that. What I think is happening is the chain bridge, what you call the chain bridge project, is that the DC Water's Potomac Interceptor Rehabilitation Project? Is that the one you're referring to?
I believe.
Mark?
Yeah, I think, yeah, the one that I talked about earlier, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're probably going to have to get back to you on that about the coordination of the project schedules, if that's okay. I need to do a little more research on that to make sure we're talking about the correct project.
Yeah, John, if you can help with that, please, because as Janet points out, the logical rerouting for many of these commuters will be to try and take Chainbridge instead. And if they do that and then just run into traffic at the Chainbridge end of the Palisades, it's just going to be a mess. So if we
Understood.
can
Yep.
make one follow the other. Now that is at night, and so perhaps that helps this scenario, but I don't know if they're going to have lane closures during the day as well, even though the work will be happening at night.
We'll go figure that out.
Yeah.
Mr. Beath, you're up.
Thank you, and thanks to JP, Mark, Andrew, Heimert for their comments. I'd like to echo those. I use that Canals Road sidewalk almost every day to commute to and from work. It's kind of ironic to me, or slightly disturbing, that this project has been cooked up with consultation with Georgetown, with quote unquote the property owners, but the people who actually use that sidewalk, or the people who drive, indeed, commuters, have not. I'm only hearing about this right now, when the plan has been completely cooked, when all these decisions have been apparently made. And this is going to wreak havoc with people's lives, people from Virginia, people who commute into DC by bike, by car, who want to walk. And I mean, it just as Mark noted, I mean, it's absolutely preposterous, the solution that you've come up with, whereby people have to call a shuttle, wait for a shuttle to walk 300 feet. I mean, that is just the height of ridiculousness. If you actually, I think, had consulted in a proper time frame with people who live in this area, who use that stretch of road or that sidewalk, you'd realize there really are not any other alternative acceptable options to drive, to bike, to walk, and the idea. I mean, I've been alerting for about basically the past 5 years to the dangers that are presented by that sidewalk. It is an urgent need of widening and of various forms of development, and the fact that you're going to create all of this chaos, havoc, annoyance, pain, and not even do anything about the clear and present hazards that are presented by the sidewalk is just absolutely disgusting.
So
this is one of the most
Beath?
appalling projects that I've seen presented, frankly.
Mr. Beath, I have this sense that all of our influence needs to go to DDOT. If someone from DDOT is here and wants to address this, we are 100% going to be reaching out to DDOT on this, because yeah, this is a once in a generation, once in a 50-year opportunity to do something with this, terrible sidewalk infrastructure. I see that Mr. Wasmer has turned on his camera. Would you like to comment?
I wanted to mention that, we've been taking notes, and that we'll take this back to our project team that's been coordinating with DC Water on the Canal Road stabilization. So I've been taking copious amounts of notes on the comments regarding the sidewalk and the MOT plan. So we'll be following up with them.
Okay.
Make sure that our outreach on this program is up to our standards as well for all stakeholders involved.
Thank you. I do want to respect everybody's time. I think the project team, I want to thank you for coming. I think you have a general idea on how we're feeling about the project, but one concrete thing I think that we would very much like you to do is coordinate with the timing for that other project that's happening right where the Clara Barton Chain Bridge and Canal Road intersection is. It's an emergency project with some kind of sewer thing. While you're here, at the intersection of Arizona Avenue and Canal, there is a storm drain that is not working. It has collapsed. And there is some kind of maybe conduit there that runs one of the electrical signs on that side of Canal that's blocking the drain. The storm sewer drain has collapsed. We have sent pictures to DC Water, to the council, to the city. But the flooding that's happening there on Canal is also causing a lot of traffic problems in our neighborhood. So I'm going to ask you to do me a solid and look into that.
Is it possible to send those photos or just any one of the emails you sent to Hadia, and then we can follow up and figure out what's going on?
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank
we
you.
will. We shall. Thank you very much. All right. Again, thank you for coming. And I think you have a general sense of like what we care about here.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you for your input, everyone.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, we are on to our official actions. I imagine we'll have some robust discussions and some amendments, but I am going to ask Commissioner Blumenthal to make a motion on the MacArthur and Arizona intersection letter.
Yes. So I will move that this commission vote in favor of sending this letter,
I second
approve transmission of this letter. And let me take a couple minutes to just walk through what is in there. There are three main points. They are, this covers a topic that this commission acted on well before I was a member of it in 2024, and deals with the traffic congestion and problems that our neighbors experience, particularly during the afternoon rush hour at the intersection of MacArthur Boulevard in Arizona. There are many drivers who pass through our area from Virginia and Maryland, but the impact falls on most of us. We're a bit frustrated that that this commission, and I use the we royally there, that the measures recommended by this commission in a letter this past October have not yet been acted on. So this letter will cover three main topics or three categories of actions that we would request that DDOT take. First, the observations, and when I say we, I also include the Transportation Committee who helps, who primarily drafted this letter. The problems at Arizona and MacArthur, the worst of them, occur when there are problems at Arizona and Canal, when the traffic cannot flow down from Arizona and flow out onto Canal, when there are backups that cause that traffic to back up. Whenever, for those who are neighbors listening, whenever there is a very bad backup at the MacArthur, Arizona intersection, you can see that when the lights change, there is nowhere for the cars to go down Arizona. There is a backup that goes all the way up. So one request is that DDOT change the timing of the traffic signals at Arizona and Canal to provide more time for drivers from Arizona. It's the observation of the Transportation Committee that while there is an effort to sort of balance the flow at the intersection at the bottom of the hill, that there could be more time for traffic to flow out from Arizona. Second, and this is for my commissioners, this is a friendly amendment. The version of the letter that I'm reading now, we updated this morning to accept a friendly amendment from Transportation Committee. There are several issues we've observed that exacerbate delays on Canal. They're not the cause, but on some days they can make it worse. One is the issue of the storm drain that Commissioner Duncan just mentioned. Whenever there is heavy rain, what happens is it obstructs the flow of traffic. Drivers try to merge left, it slows everything down, the traffic backs up. Second, there is a daily mess at 245, between 245 and 3. How bad the mess is depends on how heavy the traffic is. This is when the lanes change, when the one-way when the reversible lane changes over from inbound to outbound at 245. If the flow of traffic from Virginia is heavy enough, that lane will not clear. And what you end up with is a sort of a standoff at the Arizona Canal intersection when drivers who've stayed in that middle lane illegally come right up against drivers who are legally trying to come from DC. There's nowhere for anyone to go. The box gets blocked. The traffic backs up. It can be a massive mess. And third, and this was pointed out by 2 members of the Transportation Committee in the last couple of days, there are newly installed traffic lights on the Virginia side of the Chain Bridge and a newly installed lighting system. And their sense is that it is allowing less time for those entering the bridge coming from DC to clear that intersection, and it's causing a backup. So we're requesting 3 things that DDOT propose some measures. We've talked for years about putting up lights or something on Canal Road, but to look at the enforcement of the reversible lane restrictions, to initiate discussions with DC Water about expediting repairs of that storm drain, and to initiate discussions with Arlington Department of Transportation to make sure those Glebe Chain Bridge Road intersections are appropriately timed. Finally, the third major category is to look at the intersection. There's at least one measure here and the timing of lights at the intersection. Some of the worst delays are for drivers heading inbound on MacArthur, that is heading in a southeast direction toward downtown. The reworking of the intersection when the bike lanes went in added a left turn lane, added a designated right turn. The left turn in particular is made very, very rarely at rush hour. It is harder for cars who are going through that intersection to get through. So as we had asked in October 2024, DDOT to convert the inbound right turn to right turn only, to convert the permissive green left turn arrow for outbound traffic to a protected left, and to add a right turn arrow on the MacArthur inbound to allow right turns to Arizona Avenue during that period when Arizona Northeast bound traffic is protected, has a protected left turn arrow. And finally, we would ask DDOT, as we did in October 2024, to once again contact Google about their Google Maps and Waze navigation systems, which continue to route traffic through through the neighborhoods, cut through traffic when there is a no through traffic restriction. Christoph's, your predecessor has told us that there was this notification. It has not done a thing. So we would ask that DDOT revisit that. That's the scope of the letter, and I'll open this to questions from commissioners of the community.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Commissioner Nowak?
Thank you. As it relates, Mark, to the switchover lanes, I do think that's a significant problem, and I've seen that standoff too many times. And sometimes I feel if I'm headed outbound at that time legally, you're taking your life into your hands. In other cities that have these reversible lanes, there is overhead signage that either has a red X or a green arrow to give a clear visual clue as to which lanes are open and which direction traffic should be flowing. I don't think I heard or saw signage changes in your list of requests. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I think we're open to a friendly amendment on that. We've made that request previously. I think we could add language to that effect.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
It looks like Mr. Wassmer from DDOT would like to speak. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Really appreciate the letter regarding the intersection of Arizona and MacArthur. As I believe DDOT, my predecessor, Christian, has mentioned in the past that we were doing some signal timing review, and our signals team was looking at the intersections of Arizona and MacArthur Boulevard, but also Canal Road and GW Parkway. So I do have an update, but we will be formally responding to the letter with a more in-depth explanation. But our team has been studying the travel times and data from 2024 from January to April, and then also 2025 from January to April. But there is a lot of data to unpack here, and so we're still working towards an answer, but we will have a response prepared for you all in response to this letter.
So just if I could recap, did you say that they did study the signal timing?
Yeah, we are still studying the signal timing, but
You're still studying, okay.
we have done a study, and we're still doing some statistical analysis to unpack the data and answer some more questions that we have that came as a result of our study. So
thank you. Ms. Halpern, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. So I wasn't sure if you guys were voting on the letter and then there were comments, but I read the letter and I saw the part where the ANC is requesting to revert back to the current, I don't know if you can call it current, whatever it was before they mucked it up, bike lanes. And I was a little concerned about that because I'm a little unclear if the ANC is supposed to kind of represent the views of this neighborhood, because these bike lanes have been very controversial. They are certainly not unanimous. In fact, I would say I wouldn't even call the support of them widespread. And so I want to make sure that DDOT understands that these bike lanes, as they currently are not fully supported by the neighborhood. I think a lot of people, this is an experiment and they haven't worked. And so I just wanted to understand kind of the ANC's wording there and like if they are purporting to represent the views of the neighborhood, because it feels a little
Ms. Halpern,
disingenuous. Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
This letter that we're discussing here is about changes to the intersection. The next item up on the agenda.
I jumped my gun. Okay. Thank you.
That's okay. If you could just stick around, we're going to vote on this in a minute and then we'll get to that.
Fascinating.
No worries. Someone has posted in the chat. I just want to read it real quick. Oh, he's talking about the reversible lanes on Chain Bridge. Tell me about it. I think years and years ago, there was an officer there at changeover and there's just no budget for that anymore. It's incredibly dangerous. But thank you for that comment, Mr. Langston.
Yeah, there's nowhere for an officer to stand, literally, there to enforce it.
What I don't know if honestly I did not commute on that route in any sense, so I have no personal memory of this. We were told that there was a procedure where they were, and you can see this sometimes on the Rock Creek Parkway when they do the changeover, that they would send, that some law enforcement, I don't know if it was DC or Maryland or even Virginia, would send someone at the changeover time to essentially block the lane. Right.
So they do that in Montgomery County when they block the lane coming in. There's an officer who comes and does that every day.
Said, like on Rock Creek Parkway, I watch, they move the cones and then they sort of lead the traffic, on the reversed lane. And that something like that would occur to sort of force the traffic into the lanes. When there's I had an experience a couple weeks ago when there was a very bad backup into Virginia and the lane just stayed in the left. Nobody moved because they felt safe. The car in front of them was still in the lane and it all bottlenecked at the intersection. And that happens frequently.
All right, I'm ready to call the question. And I want to thank the Transportation Committee, in particular Mr. Heimert, for working on this letter. This will improve our intersection. All those in favor of transmitting this with the friendly amendment? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, up next, the motion on the floor is to approve the letter drafted to comment on the notice of intent recently issued by DDOT. Do I have a second? Just to recap for the community before we open this up for comments and questions, our letter requests that DDOT withdraw the notice of intent for two reasons. First, DDOT has not consulted with ANC 3D or its transportation committee, which spent over 18 months during 2022 and 2024 working intensively with DDOT in design and approval of this project. Secondly, in its haste to draft the NOI, DDOT proposes changes that are unsafe to counter DDOT policies and provides an inadequate explanation for why these changes are being proposed, thereby undermining the legitimacy of the entire NOI and warranting a complete rewrite after consultation with the community. I would like to say that we received a number of comments that we gathered, and I would say that there are a number of people who support this. They use the bike lanes. We heard from people whose kids use the bike lanes, and it was a safe way. We heard from some people who were saying, I didn't particularly love the look of the bike lanes, but you're not improving anything for drivers. You're keeping the painted bike lanes, and this makes no sense. And then we also heard from neighbors who wanted everything removed. And I would like to, and I'm going to give you another chance to speak, Ms. Halpern, before we vote on this for sure. But I would just like to address your thoughts that everyone on this commission and the past commissions that voted to approve this are not listening to the neighbors. We are listening to the neighbors. Not everybody agrees. There are people who come to us. I, for one, actually changed my behavior. When the New Mexico Avenue bike lanes were put in, I bought a bike. And I use it in the neighborhood to not take up a parking space when I go places. These things do change behaviors. And I think that there are obviously people who are much more involved in changing multimodal transportation options all over the city. I'm also a huge proponent of the bus, but we hear the people who are opposed, and there have been commissioners who are opposed. It is not that we are not hearing you. It's just that I can speak for myself personally. I think that these multimodal transportation options increase vibrancy of community. I believe that. You can disagree with me, but we do hear people when they say they don't like it. I don't love all the flex posts. We have asked DDOT to, change the design so we don't need so many of those. But I would just like to say that we're going to go through the commissioner comments, and then we'll go to the public. Commissioner Nowak.
Just for neighbors who may not be super close to this issue, but have heard only headlines about it. As Commissioner Duncan said, this is DDOT put out a notice of intent that they wanted to change the bike lanes. But I want it to be crystal clear to everyone that removal of the bike lanes is not an option that is on the table. This is a reconfiguration from what I'll call configuration as is to, would be, with as is being protected bike lanes and the proposed being unprotected bike lanes that would take up the same linear footage from the curb, just on opposite sides of the street. It will not provide any new parking. It will not provide any new traffic lanes. It will not improve the flow of traffic. So I hear and respect the people that don't like the fact that there are bike lanes at all. But to be clear, that is not salient to this particular vote and topic around this letter. Thank you.
Commissioner Elkins.
As my colleagues know, I was the chair of the co-chair of the Transportation Committee when this bike lane was considered over an 18-month to 24-month period. And we made a considerable effort, as did DDOT, to try to elicit community comment on it and to take that into consideration. Now, we all know that when you try to involve the public in any public matter like this, you can never be entirely successful. So I don't want to say it was just a wonderful communication effort, but we did try very hard. And we particularly focused on those people who lived right there on Arizona Avenue. And we heard primarily from one person who was very strongly opposed to the bike lane. And so these matters were considered in some depth. We hope we made the right decision, but I just want to assure everyone as we come back around to this, that when we were saying to DDOT, we think that in putting out this notice of intent, you did not come back to the same ANC Transportation Committee and to this commission to consult when you had consulted with us for 18 months about this. And in fact, we made a number of changes to it, and which improved it, particularly in terms of pedestrian stuff. This really was a very hasty effort by DDOT, and doesn't show their best work. And we're calling them to essentially live up to their high principles, which they try to live up to, which is to involve community consultation in a realistic way. If it comes back to the ANC, as I hope it does, I would hope we would have once again an open effort to involve public comment, and then make a decision at that point. So I think we did a good job at the first time, and I think we can do a good job the next time if they will bring it back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Roosevelt.
I just wanted to clarify what letter we're voting on here, because I know that there are two on the website. There's one to the DDOT director, and then there's one regarding the NOI. All right, which one are we voting on? Are we voting on them both together, or there are two fairly different letters?
Someone just brought that to my attention. There is a separate letter to Director Kirschbaum. I think I'm going to do two votes. The one that is addressing the NOI is much more robust, and the one to Director Kirschbaum is just a little bit shorter. That like nicely tells her why we're frustrated. So it'll be two votes now. Motion on the floor is just the response to the NOI. Commissioner Beath. I mean, not Commissioner Beath, Mr. Beath. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thanks for the promotion. No, look, I mean, I was on the transportation committee, so I endured, not to any same extent that Chuck did and others, but endured many of the discussions on this. And I think, no matter what your position is on protected bike lanes or bike lanes in general, if you're if you're at all interested in the notion of community consultation and considered decision making, how this is played out should appall you, because if this is setting a precedent for how decisions that affect all of us are going to be made in this city, next administration, a decision may be summarily made that you find appalling. And so, I hope that regardless of all this, we can all come to a consensus as a community that the way this decision was made is not the way things should be. And that aside, in terms of the substance of this issue, look, just to spell it out very clearly. I have 3 school-age children who cannot obviously drive. Neither myself nor my wife have the ability to drive our kids everywhere in town. I do not want my kids riding on the sidewalk because it's dangerous to them and dangerous to pedestrians. I do not feel comfortable with them biking without bike lanes, and I do not feel comfortable with them riding on unprotected bike lanes because cars park in unprotected bike lanes and force cyclists out into the street, which is how people get killed. So a protected bike lane is critical to enabling my children, to other cyclists, to feel safe in riding bikes, scooters, other micromobility devices around the city of the District of Columbia. And so the removal of protected bike lanes is a step back. And if you go onto the DDOT website on the bike strategy note, they note very explicitly that their research has found that protected bike lanes are an essential component in encouraging people to adopt micro mobility modes of transportation. So if we want people to do that, then by definition, taking protected bike lanes away basically is encouraging people to get back into their cars and clog up our streets even more and make all of our lives more miserable. So both in terms of the process primarily, but both in terms of the substance, I fully endorse this letter. Thank you.
That's what my takeaway is from your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Keenan, you're up.
Thank you, Commissioner Duncan. I just wanted to comment on something that was in one of the letters you read in your preamble, where the writer said that, why are we reconfiguring the lanes when it's not going to give any more space back to automobiles? And I'm sure the commissioners all know this, but I just feel it bears repeating because it is such a frequent source of misinformation. The bike lanes did not take any travel space away from automobiles. Arizona Avenue was one lane in each direction before the bike lanes. It's one lane in each direction now. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for those comments. Ms. Halpern, I'm going to give you all the time that you need.
I'm embarrassed I did that the first time. And
No, don't. It happens all the time. Don't be.
And I do appreciate your words on kind of saying that you hear the community. I really do appreciate that. I just also want to clear up, like, I'm not an anti-bike person. I cycle to work. That is like my primary way that I commute. And I use the Capitol Crescent Trail every day. But I can't use the bike lanes because I find them to be dangerous. If you are going down that hill at speed, from September to December, there's detritus in them. The curb things make it so the wind from the cars doesn't flush out the leaves, the sticks, the everything. And I find them to be not usable. We also had an incident on Arizona Avenue, my neighbor a few houses up, where they couldn't get emergency services to their house. And so while I appreciate, families who use the bike lanes and it would be unsafe to bike without them, like some of us also would like fire trucks to get to our house, But my point is, what is my point? In the letter, there was this call to go back to the status quo. And, I would appreciate it if it is made clear to DDOT either in this meeting, because I see Greg here, or in that letter that the neighborhood does not support going back to status quo. We may not support this. And I take Commissioner Norwalk's point that the question is not, should we have bike lanes or not? It's, should we have these kind of shitty ones or these kind of shitty ones? But I'm not sure I'm convinced that if the ANC said, you know what, this experiment, we tried it and it didn't work. DDOT, we don't want bike lanes. I think that would not be out of the question. And I would be curious to the DDOT representative, why is that not an available option? If none of the options are working, maybe this is just a road that shouldn't have a bike lane.
Thank you for those comments. And I see Mr. Billing is here, and I would like to, well, actually, I'm going to let Commissioner Blumenthal speak, and then we'll go to Mr. Billing, hopefully.
I just want to say two things. One, I've never seen a fire truck that couldn't run over flex posts, so I'm.
Oh, I know on my phone it's charging, but I can go get the photo. We all took photos of the ambulance that couldn't get to the house in Arizona. So I'm happy to post in the chat after this.
Please do. As for the point that the community opposes this, in the last several weeks, as Commissioner Duncan said, we've received, both the ANC and some of us personally, we've received thoughtful emails that don't like bike lanes at all. One of those was yours, Hillary, that we've received email, at least to me. We've received emails speaking in favor of it, including folks who live and use that lane, on the north of MacArthur Boulevard or northeast every day. Asserting that the neighborhood, just as an empirical point, we have evidence that people feel strongly on both sides. I don't doubt that there's that there's opposition. I don't know exactly how all 1,300 some members of my SMD or the 9,000 who live in ANC 3 registered voters, according to the lists that the ANC office gets us. I assume their opinion includes a mix of people who are willing to delegate to us that they're making a decision, evidenced by the fact that there are, 20 people here, including the commissioners. I mean, this is the way an ANC works. So, we listen to the community and we listen to all sides, and just simply saying the community opposes it, again, as an empirical point, is not backed up by the people who have spoken at this meeting or who have emailed us.
To clarify, that's not what I was suggesting. I just wanted to make sure it was clear that the community doesn't support, like, it is a diverse, as you said, there's opposition, there's support, and it's not unanimous. And so when the ANC speaks, it's speaking on behalf of the neighborhood. So I just want to make sure it was clear that there is opposition. Like, I didn't want the DDOT to walk away thinking, oh, the ANC endorses this, the neighborhood endorses it, because that may not be the case. That was all I was saying.
So I would also like to add that individuals can respond to the NOI. Have you done that? Okay. Okay. So, yeah, so hopefully, I mean, I know DDOT, I would be interested to hear how many responses you have to your NOI. Mr. Billing, would you like to speak maybe on the process?
Sure. Can you hear me here?
Yes, you're grand.
Okay, great. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Greg Billing. I'm the Bikeways branch manager at DDOT. I'm new to DDOT. I started in February, so I was not as part of the agency during the initial public planning process and the project being installed, but certainly aware of it as a district resident. I can speak to the direction my team was given by senior leadership, which was to reconsider the current design based on concerns that we had heard from community members about both the vertical separation, the use of the concrete wheel stops and the flex posts, and concerns about the layout and some operational issues we've had. So our team was given a design challenge to address those, and to not adjust parking, and not to adjust travel capacity. I will say that this project also came up very quickly as we had planned asset management to resurface part of the roadway. I'm going to resurface the entire roadway from Loughborough to MacArthur. So that's the direction my team has been given. And as you can imagine, I speak for my team and I speak for the direction we were given, but I'm not the decision maker.
And then can you tell us what kind of response you've gotten to the NOI?
Certainly. It has been overwhelming. My inbox has got a lot of email, well over 300
oh, wow.
Responses.
Okay.
It got blasted out on the bike people Reddits.
And just with that 300, you don't have to give us exact numbers, but mostly for the changes, mostly opposed to the changes. What are you saying, Mr. Billing? In that,
It's been a lot of email, and mostly I've just been trying to sort it. So I don't have like a full breakdown, and I certainly don't have a breakdown by where the constituent who responded. Certainly many people, because I do read them, but I don't have like a tally. Certainly a lot of people who live on Arizona, live directly off Arizona, who are members of this ANC, and plenty of people who use this to commute, to recreate, and are concerned about the project.
Okay.
Can we just, in terms of the process, understanding, and thank you for alerting us that you're relatively new to DDOT, but the ANC was not consulted, as Commissioner Elkins spoke earlier, and that is typically part of the process. So with the direction that your team was given, were you told to, bypass the ANC because of other factors, or how was that addressed?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was, my team is a team of planners who do protected bike lanes, on-street bike facilities, and trails. I think I kind of expressed sort of the direction we were given. I know that letter addresses the concerns of process, and I think that that's sort of the appropriate venue to communicate to the leadership.
I would say this, Commissioner Nowak, that them putting out the NOI is them thinking they're involving the ANC.
Okay, all
I
right,
think
thank
the
you.
decision to remove the protection was made outside of every single person at this meeting.
Yeah, yeah, understood.
Commissioner Roosevelt?
I mostly just wanted to say what Commissioner Nowak said. I mean, years and years of work were put into getting this bike lane done, and then, for it to all suddenly be like, oh, we're going to pull it out now. Here's our notice of intent. It just doesn't make sense, to be honest, and it's not how DDOT's been operating for forever. And so I wonder if this is, representative of a larger change at the agency, or if this was just a one-off thing. But it just seems like the process has just been thrown out the window here.
Well, I will say that the ANC does not have, decision-making power here. Commissioner Elkins can tell me if this is one of those instances where they have to give us great weight, or we're just weighing in just like any other, constituent.
I believe this is a case where they need to give us great weight, but that's a legal issue, which I don't think I should opine on.
Okay. For everyone here who is unfamiliar with the way ANCs are structured, there are some things that under statute, agencies need to give us great weight, but they don't have to listen to us. So.
But what that means, Madam Chairman, I think is relevant here, and that is that what great weight really means under some court cases that have been filed is the following: that when an ANC makes a comment that we have 5 reasons why we think X, Y, Z, that the receiving agency, if they're going to give great weight, doesn't mean they have to agree with the ANC. But they are obligated to take those 5 points and respond to them in a substantive, honest, appropriate manner, in which they say, we don't agree with you for the following reason, or whatever. That is the most that we as an ANC can expect, but I think it's the kind of respect that we would appreciate. I think the larger issue is that I think we all understand that this directive came, as you said, to people who were not at this meeting. And that, if you work for the government agency, if your superior tells you to, you should do something and it's not illegal, then, you took the job and you should do the best you can. And I think that's what the staff has done here at DDOT. And I don't think we should be mad at them for doing that. But I think what I'm raising is that in doing that, they did it in a way which goes counter to the way in which the department has been trying to move, and which I think Christoph sort of referred to in an earlier conversation, that they have a high principle with regard to consultation with the public. And this is what got lost in this process. Maybe they were given a timetable, I have no idea, that had to do this a certain time. But I think what we are asking here is not that we are right and therefore they should change their mind. I think we've certainly given them a number of reasons why that they might think about changing their mind. But what we're asking for in this letter, as I see it, is to take a moment, go back to consultation with the community. I think this ANC, true to its normal process, will then consult with the community, including Ms. Halpern and others. In other words, not a one-sided consultation at all. And hopefully consult with DDOT professionals about what is the best thing to do here. And then we would make our recommendation, and DDOT would then make its decision. That, I don't think that's asking too much of this department, because I think what we're asking to do is live up to their normal way of proceeding, which may be because of the circumstances they sort of passed by this time. And we're just asking to go back. No, let's do it the way DDOT normally does it. You did a great job last time of involving us, and we ask you to do the same thing this time.
I'm ready to call the question. Motion on the floor is to approve sending this letter to the NOI comments. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. I'm going to do a quick motion on the floor to transmit a shorter recap letter directly to Director Kirschbaum. Do I have a second? Commissioner Elkins seconds the motion. Are there any comments on that? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone who came and worked very hard on this. The next item on the agenda I am introducing is the motion on the floor is to approve the letter suggesting improvements to the Foxhall and Reservoir intersection letter. Do I have a second? Commissioner Simkwitz seconds the motion. I am going to actually ask co-chair of the Transportation Committee, Mr. Heimert, to go over what these changes are so that we all know what we're talking about. And Catherine, can he share his screen? He has a little graphic.
For sure. If you're able to share that, it would help me a lot. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it up. I mean, let me see if I can, but
Catherine's got it. Here it is.
Oh, terrific. Okay. Okay. All right. So this letter, this image will try to capture the idea, many of the ideas in the letter, not quite all of them. But the genesis of this was a number of months ago, hearing expressions of concern about how this intersection operates, both for motorists and for pedestrians, cyclists as well. There's a fair amount of speeding that goes through the intersection, turns that aren't made but should be from left turn only lanes and so forth. The Transportation Committee looked at a number of possibilities, really coming out also of the NOI that resulted, came out after the death of the pedestrian a little bit further south and DDOT's efforts to address parts of Foxhall Road. We wanted to take it a little bit further to try to address the intersection more comprehensively than those changes were doing. Wide crosswalks, the slip lanes, and so forth. So the ideas that we came up with, and I'll come back to the one that was discussed at the last meeting after going through these, was to ask DDOT to look at various reconfigurations of the intersection and nearby roadways. And sorry for the crude markings on this map, but this is sort of to illustrate the intersection. There are three sort of red X's in the place where the slip lanes are. One of the asks would be basically to eliminate those slip lanes where currently pedestrians have to cross with basically no protection, even in the form of a traffic signal from drivers. And instead of having the slip lanes there, obviously there'd be some reconfiguration of the islands, but there would just be a standard right turn lane, or right turns would be allowed from the straight lane, depending on the intersection. This would both slow speed somewhat through the intersection, but also enhance pedestrian safety. The second component is to change somewhat the configuration of the lanes going northbound on Foxhall Road. These are illustrated by the two yellow lines. Instead of having both lanes be able to go straight or be allowed to go straight, the left lane would be for left turns only, and the right lane, in addition to being for right turns, would go straight up the hill. This would allow for some differences in signal timing, so you could have left turns both going northbound and southbound on Foxhall Road at the same time, potentially reducing the overall light cycle and allowing more throughput on the intersection. The third significant suggestion would be to eliminate the second lane on Foxhall Road going uphill. That's the sort of the blue marking, where right now what we see is you tend to get drivers from the right lane and the left lane both racing each other to get to the merge point just past where the the St. Patrick's School entrance to their field is. And in fact, there was a person who had basically a one car crash there, and she ultimately died when she hit the median. The police report was not entirely clear. It's a sort of a bizarre configuration now because there's really no particular need for two lanes there, at least past 45th Street, when it narrows to one anyway. It doesn't really improve traffic flow. If anything, it worsens it and creates that awkward merge that anyone in the area who's driven it is familiar with. Not shown on here is a suggestion to do the same thing for the southbound second lane just to the south of Whitehaven Parkway. And that would go as far as necessary to where DDOT determined, you need a left turn lane. So that would probably be somewhere just north of this map, or maybe just in the top part of the map. It would become two lanes to allow for left turns at the intersection. Again, those two lanes, it's one lane, widens to two lanes for just a brief moment and then goes back to one lane, creates racing unsafe conditions, and is also likely to have the potential to create risk. It also would have the potential benefit of avoiding people being in the left lane who then say, oh, I was in the left lane, I didn't know I had to go left, and either cut over or go straight when they should go left. So those are the main changes that we are suggesting DDOT do. Let me touch, if I could, on one of the more radical ideas that the Transportation Committee came up with, was to ask DDOT to explore a roundabout at this intersection. The Transportation Committee, while filled with capable people, does not have all of the abilities to determine whether the space would allow for a roundabout that would be adequate for the traffic flow, which was why we had proposed to hire a traffic consultant who could do that analysis, look at the sort of the standard designs for roundabouts, see whether it would be feasible to fit one here and whether it would be feasible for that roundabout to handle the traffic flow. There are a number of benefits to roundabouts. It slows vehicle speeds coming into the intersection, can be designed with pedestrian crossings that are before the roundabout where traffic is already slowing and they have a much narrower crossing. It would be just one lane entering, one lane exiting on each of the streets here, as opposed to the multi-lanes for turns and so forth. We had proposed that be funded by the ANC because DDOT is not capable of taking it on, recognizing the concern from at least some members of the ANC about spending ANC funds on that. That request has now been changed just to a request for DDOT to consider looking at it. Whether they do or don't, up to them. Hopefully they would, but we shall see. So that's, sorry if that summary went on too long, but I hope that captures pretty much everything.
That was excellent. I think we all know exactly what we're asking DDOT to consider. We can go ahead and stop sharing. Thank you so much, Catherine. Do any of the commissioners have any comments on those specific asks, or did we want to talk about the inclusion of asking DDOT about the roundabout? Commissioner Elkins.
Well, I do have an amendment that I would like to propose to this letter that deals with the roundabout. I think within the Transportation Committee, the question of the roundabout has been raised. I think that we've not had, the full discussion that maybe would be necessary. And we certainly have not had, once we understand it as a Transportation Committee, and quite frankly, there's a big difference between roundabouts and circles. Somebody mentioned Ward Circle, for instance, that's not a roundabout. Once we understand the advantages and disadvantages, we have not had any discussion with the public about this. And so I think it's premature for us to push this forward. At the same time, I I don't want to see the idea die. I think this is, we don't know enough yet to essentially say, we know, we are experts in this, and we want to kill this idea. I don't think maybe there are people out in the community who are experts, but I think maybe we need further discussion. So what I'm proposing is, instead of the next to the last paragraph, that we say something along the following. And maybe I can see if I can, am I allowed to share my screen? Maybe I could show this. Let's see if I've chosen the right thing to show. Here we are. It would say, there have been some initial discussions in the ANC 3D Transportation Committee about the possible desirability of a modern roundabout at this intersection, if such were found to be physically feasible. If this proposal is further developed, we may return to DDOT in the future with a specific request in that regard, but only after conferring with the residents of ANC 3D. So I'm proposing that that might better reflect where we are in our discussion with the community and within the ANC.
So just to clarify, your amendment, this would delete the next to last paragraph
That's correct.
of the current level that deals with roundabout. So this would be what we would be mentioning according to your amendment.
That is correct. That is what I'm proposing.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment. So commissioners, we are going to be using this language instead of the original language as the letter stands now. No other commissioners have their hands up, so I'm going to go to the community. Ms. Tursoff.
Hi, I live on Foxhall at Volta Place, so I have a lot of feelings. And just a few thoughts that I'll go in order that they were in the letter. The first one is that a special attention was brought to the turn from Foxhall Road onto Reservoir heading into Georgetown.
Yep.
Whereas I would give special attention to Reservoir going on to Foxhall northbound. So from Georgetown up Foxhall, because of the slope, it has much worse sight lines and I think is much more dangerous.
Okay. I'm following you.
Okay, and then as far as eliminating one northbound lane on Foxhall above Reservoir, there are yard maintenance companies that occasionally are parked there, which is really fun when you suddenly come across them. So I don't know, would the plan be to make that a parking lane or to plant shrubbery or whatever? But you know, it was just a scary thought of these big trucks that are used to parking there suddenly having nowhere to go. The idea of having a left turn only lane on northbound Foxhall, I love that one. And being able to do the two left turns at the same time. And then as far as the number 4, additional signage regarding the southbound left turn only lane, this is something that I've been complaining about forever. So whatever you can do to get that in place would be wonderful. So those were all my thoughts.
I want to thank you for paying so close attention to our letters, because we don't often get that. Happy that you're seeing support. So how this process would work is, if we send this and they agree, like this needs to be taken a look at, they would issue an NOI before they made changes. So all of those questions about, you know, what would happen in this place where we would do this, where these people park, that would be the time that we would 100% be looking for community nitty-gritty input on that.
Great.
But thank you. That was extremely helpful. Thank you. Commissioner Nowak.
Just following up on Ms. Tursoff's insightful recommendations, I would love to see the left turns aligned on Reservoir Road in the same manner that is being recommended for the Foxhall Road left turn signal alignment. Right now, all the westbound traffic goes, and then the eastbound traffic can go and it has no protected left turn. So I just would add that to consideration. I also share the concern about taking away the lane between Reservoir and, help me, Commissioner Simkowitz, what's the name of the street, the one block up off of Reservoir Road where Colony Hill is? Is that
Hoban? Hoban?
Hoban, yeah. If we lose that lane between Foxhall and Hoban, I think it will cause problems for the residents of that block who have vendors coming and going throughout the day. And they do not just the lawn maintenance people, but UPS and Amazon trucks come and drop off packages. And if that's cut down to one lane, then those that are headed northbound on Foxhall will be put in a position to go into incoming traffic in the other direction. We kind of deal with that further up Foxhall when you get up closer to, Dexter and those streets up that way by Chuck.
Could it be made into parking?
Maybe, sure. Yeah, I think as long as there's a lane for those temporary vehicles to go, you can call it a loading zone, parking is fine. I think the only concern with parking would be that if people are parked for 2 hours at a time, then we still have the same problem with the Amazon trucks. So I'm not necessarily opposed to losing it as a traffic lane, but I would be cautious as to how we reconfigure that space.
Mr. Beith.
Thank you. Just so I'm a little bit confused here. So this friendly amendment from Chuck that you adopted, that has eliminated the second to last paragraph that started, we have also considered whether an ends may return to DDOT in the future with a more specific request. Is that paragraph struck?
That was a substitution. So Chuck's shorter paragraph would go in lieu of that longer one.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess this has been adopted now, so this is kind of done. But I mean, we've discussed this at the Transportation Committee at least a couple of times, and I thought we had reached reasonable consensus on this. And this paragraph anyway was not making. Obviously, the language is may return to DDOT in the future with a more specific request, and simply said we had initiated discussions with the neighborhood about this possible change. So I really perplexed as to why this was struck, because it really just summarizes the discussions that we had had within the Transportation Committee and issues that I thought that we had reached a consensus on.
So
we're simply asking them here. We're interested in whether such a roundabout is feasible, and we're inviting them to look at that, not making any specific recommendations as to whether we want them to go forward with that.
So I can answer that. The Transportation Committee does so much work, which is like reflected in this letter. But at the same time, the commissioners here have to vote for this. And I wanted the letter to pass, and I took the friendly amendment. So sometimes how the sausage gets made is a little.
Yeah, sausage. I mean, as somebody had obviously put a lot of work into preparing the materials that we discussed with the Transportation Committee and so forth, I don't really view that amendment as friendly. So, but that's just my view. So
I totally understand your comments.
Yeah, this is I think this is unfortunate. Given all the discussion that we've had up to this point on this, it's quite disappointing.
Mr. Heimert.
Sure. I wanted to address Commissioner Nowak's concern about the right lane going up Foxhall north of Reservoir, and how to solve for the problem of two lanes of cars sort of racing all the way up. I mean, one option, and I think these are all the kinds of things that would be worked out in a future design process, would be to make that a right turn only lane up so far as, is it Hoban Road, I think you mentioned. And at that point, it could be, whatever mechanism would be is blocked, but it's so anybody in that lane has to turn right. Now, it's not legal for yard trucks to park there now. It wouldn't be legal for them to park there then, but I appreciate that the practicalities of the situation may still lead that to happen, but it would at least make only one lane going straight and avoiding that, sort of that racing situation that we're trying to help address.
Yeah, I think that's a creative solution that I could get behind. I think that's great.
Commissioner Elkins?
Well, I want to respond to Andrew Beath. Andrew, I think I just did you a favor. I know you've been very much promoting this idea, and I've been very supportive of that, and I continue to be. I think where we have run into some difficulty is that a number of neighbors have heard about this idea, and I think, without being pejorative, I don't think they understand roundabouts much more than I do, and compared to circles, et cetera, and that their opposition to this idea may not be well-founded, but we don't know. And I think that we need to stop, understand ourselves more about what the impact of roundabouts is particularly with regard to pedestrians. And then engage in a discussion in which neighbors can learn what we have learned about roundabouts and pedestrian safety, and then can advise us as an ANC, as a transportation committee, and then the ANC about whether they are opposed or not. So quite frankly, I think I just did you a favor, because if we take a position in favor of roundabouts, by the way, this letter doesn't really ask DDOT to do anything about roundabouts if you read it carefully anyway. Then we've taken a position about roundabouts, and we have neighbors who may well be in opposition. I don't think that's where we want to be. I think we want to be in a place where we're having a dialogue with the public about roundabouts. And so I'm moving us back, I hope, to let's have that dialogue. And I think you will find that favorable, because otherwise I think your roundabout is in the trash can.
I can just respond really quickly. No, I mean, look, I mean, I take your point, Chuck, but I don't want to say that I am in favor or not. I think the first step is to figure out, given the very peculiar geography of this intersection, whether a roundabout is even physically feasible, right? Because if it's not physically feasible, then the safety benefits, the flow benefits, et cetera, are academic. But I just don't know, the kind of way forward. I mean, we'd come up with this idea to fund just a study that would have determined that physical feasibility. And to me, that's the first step. And I don't know what our path is to get to that point, and happy to discuss offline. Yeah, I don't know where we had it from here. We've had the open discussion of this at the Transportation Committee at least a couple of times, and those people who are apparently opposed or don't understand this haven't presented themselves at the meeting for those discussions. And I don't know necessarily why we would expect them to do it in the future. So that's what I want to know, in the interest of not putting a roundabout there or putting whatever solution there, but just improving the safety for pedestrians, drivers, cyclists, et cetera, at that intersection, how we move this forward to the best possible solution.
Madam Chairman, could I respond?
Yes, please.
Mark, if you don't mind.
Well, can I just say one thing, because it's sort of consistent with what Andrew said, and then you can answer both of us. I speak as someone who I'd characterize my position as having an open mind about roundabouts. I'm not advocating for or against. But my perception is, and this is what Andrew said, that the Transportation Committee is sort of at us stuck. And the point is that it's not clear whether, and none of us are transportation engineers, it is not clear whether this would even be feasible. And that the next step before we could convince anyone of the merits of this or not, whether you convince me of the merits of this or not, is whether it'll fit in that oval shape. And there ought to be somebody that I trust that there's a traffic engineer at DDOT who could look at this intersection and give us an answer. You know, and the answer may be nope. But I don't see how we get there amongst ourselves. That's my question, I guess.
Commissioner Elkins, did you want to?
Yes, I'd like to respond to that. I agree with that. And unfortunately, I was not able to be at the last meeting in which the issue of whether or not this commission should fund a transportation study. I would have been a strong advocate in favor of our spending the money. We have a lot of money in the bank, and this I think would be well spent, but I didn't have a chance to do that. And I would promise to Mr. Beath that at the right time, I promise to bring this issue back up to the, or try to bring it back up to the commission and ask that we fund such a transportation study if we can't find another solution. Commissioner Blumenthal, I'm not optimistic that DDOT would do this. They should, but I don't think it will rise high enough in their priorities. And so I think we have to fund it ourselves. And so I will commit as a single commissioner that I will bring it back and urge my commissioner colleagues to fund such a report. And I think that would take us to the next step, because I think at that point, if we knew it was physically possible to put a roundabout there, then at that point, I suggest we take it out to the community. I don't think just in the Transportation Committee, that's not sufficient. Take it out to the community for a discussion of whether this makes any sense. And we would all learn a lot more about roundabouts as a community and could then decide as an ANC whether we wanted to promote this or just let it die.
Commissioner Nowak?
I rise to answer specifically Mr. Beef's question that people who have concerns about this paragraph have not presented themselves. I raised to my fellow commissioners offline before this meeting that I received an inordinate amount of feedback from my constituents reacting very strongly to the idea of a roundabout. Now, we could say that they're uninformed. I would not be the one to step out and say that. What I would say is that I am in agreement with Commissioner Elkins that this is premature at this juncture. I think there's a lot of research that can be done. And it seems to me that a friendly amendment to replace the paragraph for one that's a little bit softer would get you most votes from the commissioners, as opposed to those of us who would vote no on the letter as it stands. And I'm not going to speak for other commissioners. They can speak for themselves about their thoughts on the letters, but I would not be able to vote for this letter as it stands, because to do so would be sending a message to my constituents that I am ignoring their concerns. And that is certainly not the message I want to send. In the end, the roundabout might be the right answer. And if we can do the research that says that's the right way to go at this intersection, then we can readdress. But right now we're talking in hypotheticals and people are getting up in arms about it. And I think it's an easy way to bring the temperature down on the situation, do a little bit more work, and then come back again.
All right,
Just ask very quickly, is Chuck's would it be possible to vote on what was considered at the last meeting to actually fund the study to figure out if it's physically feasible?
I'm not sure procedurally that would be appropriate. We try to, as best we can, to put on, to let the public know when we're voting on something and let them come to the meeting and argue with us about it, or make presentations about it. And so this would be slipping it through. I'm, I have committed, as you heard, to bring it back at the appropriate time. We need to discuss what the appropriate time is, but it could always be the next meeting.
I will say that right now that motion is tabled. So Robert's rules would say that we do need to bring it up, but I'm loath to bring up something when I'm not. I like to have a general idea how the vote is going to go before I bring things up.
At the table, the one about the funding this study?
Yeah, it was tabled.
Yeah, we can table that to next. I don't think that Robert's rule says it has to come up at the next meeting, or if it does, we can just
think it does
continue to
either.
table it. So, yeah.
But we either have to, kill it or bring it up. So, we can add it to the agenda for next meeting. We should bring it up at the Transportation Committee.
Right.
All right, I'm ready to call the question. All those in favor of transmitting this letter to DDOT with the friendly amendment? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next up on the agenda is the DCPS changes to kindergarten enrollment. Our State Board of Education Ward 3 rep, Eric Goulet, is here. Motion on the floor is to send this letter to Chairman Mendelson, who right now is head of the Education Committee under the Committee of the Whole. Do I have a second? Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. Representative Goulet, would you like to just, hopefully we're getting late, so just like 2 minutes on the work that you've done here. I think most people here know the background because we went over it at the last meeting, but I'd love to have you say a few words about the work that the State Board of Education is doing. He might be waiting for a text from me. He also, I
He
think
is on the call. I will ping him to turn on his mic.
Yeah, he's here, but he also is doing work at the State Board of Education right now, so we might just have him come in. So the State Board of Education created, okay, he needs a few minutes to go get his laptop. I think he's locked out of the room where he was. Okay. We posted the brief legislation, but essentially the legislation does not force kids to skip kindergarten. If you move to the District of Columbia and you followed your enrollment birthday rules in your jurisdiction that happen to be different than our cutoff day here, you can still go into kindergarten. They're not going to force you to skip to first grade. If you went to a private preschool or a local preschool and you are entering into the elementary school for the first time and you are under 6 years old, then by I think it's May 31st, then you can enroll in kindergarten. What the district is trying to do now is eliminate any possibility for any kid, even if their family thinks that this is the best thing for them not to skip kindergarten, they're making them skip kindergarten. I don't think that this policy is student focused, family focused, kid focused. I think it actually harms people in some way. And I would really like to see the city let this be decided by the professionals who know the students personally and the families decide these things. But to tell a family that moved from Florida that their kid has to skip kindergarten is ridiculous. And that is exactly what's happening. Does anyone have any comments?
I will just relate a personal story. My sons have a September birthday, and for a number of reasons, and a decision was made in consultation with educational professionals, their pediatricians, psychologists, et cetera, that they were better off waiting a year to go to kindergarten. So this law, as is the one that we're looking to SBOE to overturn, or the council, I guess at this point, would force them into first grade, having made them skip kindergarten, and it would have just been a disaster for my family. So I come to this from a very personal perspective. They went to kindergarten. They were on the older side of their class. They did well. They flourished. You know, everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And I don't know how the city or DCPS would have been better off pushing them into first grade, where they would have struggled. So,
Commissioner Elkins?
I'm very much in favor of this. I just wanted to make the observation that this is a city which invites a lot of people from around the country to come work in the government, sometimes for a short period of time, or for a contractor, or for, you know, and we probably have more people coming in from Florida and other places around this country than most cities, and we ought to be accommodating to that. We are an inviting city that says, come serve in the government or other places, and we shouldn't make it so it's hostile to the family.
I've just added the spotlight of our State Board of Education rep for Ward 3, Eric Goulet. Welcome. We have been discussing this for a few minutes. Thank you for texting me. Everybody here knows the background of why we're doing this, but if you could please give us an update on what the State Board of Education has done, how we're lobbying your proposed legislation. What have you heard from the council? Please just give us the updates, the lay of the land.
Well, thank you so much, Chairperson Duncan. I appreciate that. And thank you, commissioners, for your time here. Can you hear me okay? I know we had some.
Yeah, you sound
I
great.
got locked out of my own conference room here. So I appreciate you having me on. This issue started in February, where parents raised concerns that they suddenly weren't allowed to attend kindergarten. There was really an abrupt change that was made to the way DC treats the educational assessments that are being made by educators in our private and parochial schools. Typically, the way it had always been done before is that if a parent had a child, because we don't, as everyone knows, we don't have pre-K3 in our Ward 3 public schools, or in Lafayette or Ross Elementaries, there's no pre-K3. So if a student was assessed by the educators there and were found to have educational delays that required maybe delaying pre-K3 or repeating pre-K3 or pre-K4 due to those delays, that was always respected by the principals, and the child, based on proficiency requirements in DC municipal regulations, was just then tracked into kindergarten. So there was never really any issue with this, and we really did have kind of a best practice standard across the country, in that you had a situation where September 30th was the age cutoff, but proficiency considerations, working with principals, educators, and parents, were what really determined whether there was any deferral. And there was nothing wrong with the system. It had actually been working quite well. DCPS, out of the blue, decided there was going to be no exceptions to this, and have really now instituted a policy that's an outlier nationally. No other jurisdiction in the country has anything like this. Virginia also has a September 30th age cutoff, like we do, but they have a very liberal process to be able to get exceptions, where if someone comes in requesting a one-year deferral for kindergarten due to maturity issues, that's granted. So I don't really understand the rationale for this. It is very unclear why this policy was changed when it was working well for decades. It was initiated at Lafayette Elementary School by the principal there. And what really concerned me is then it immediately then escalated to retaliation. The parents
mentioned that this was something that, throughout the ward, principals base on proficiency and use the municipal regulations to track kids into the appropriate grade. DCPS immediately put a stop to that and then ordered an age audit of all the Ward 3 schools and began disenrolling children who had already been enrolled in kindergarten and whom the principals had already made commitments for. There's an example of a child who, working with the principal, working with educators, counselors, everybody decided it was in the child's best interest to repeat pre-K4 this school year rather than go to kindergarten. That child then is now being forced to go to first grade and skip kindergarten altogether. No one thinks that's in the child's best interests. And I think what is most disturbing of all of this is DCPS's response is that they're going to do the assessments in the fall. They're going to force the children into first grade. They won't assess the children now. And they're going to basically force the kids to get underwater, struggle, and then they'll agree to demote them back to kindergarten. And none of this is in keeping with any educational best practice whatsoever. And that all is problematic enough. But what else has happened is there's now also three instances that I know of where they reported families to the Child and Family Services Agency and accused them of educational neglect, even though the kids were enrolled in pre-K4 at the time. And that was really done, which I think is a misreading of DC Code. DC Code requires that if a child is in school, they're not truant. And they've now said they're not going to interpret a private or parochial pre-K program as being a school. So all of this has really come out of nowhere. I think it is a complete, I think just not, I wouldn't say a waste of time, but it is an issue that should never have been an issue in the first place because we had a working system.
So, like we are all aware of like the horror stories.
Yeah.
Where is the State Board of Education, like in terms of getting the council? It seems like we need legislation to fix this
Yes.
because the city's not going to do it themselves.
Thank you, Chair Duncan. I didn't realize you had that background, so that's really helpful. So we as a board then took action. We approved a resolution condemning reporting families to protective services and encouraging the right of all children to attend kindergarten. We drafted legislation and then we introduced that legislation to council. That legislation is now pending before the DC Council, and it just needs a member to move it and then 9 votes to pass. Unfortunately, at the last meeting, no one agreed to move the legislation. There's still 2 meetings left before the council goes on recess. One is the 14th of July. The other is the 28th of July.
Have you heard why they're not moving the legislation?
I have. I don't find the response satisfactory. I mean, they've said this is the discretion of the chancellor, and they've basically punted on it. And I have real reservations about the whole process. For me on this, I've been a supporter of the school reform efforts that took place in 2008, but I have witnessed the council not taking this issue up for months, us having to take action on it, and then families have heard excuses about why they can't take action, like that they're busy with the budget, that they're dealing with the football stadium. And this is what the council agreed to take on with oversight. So they need to focus on this. And the other thing they've said is, well, the chancellor has the authority to make decisions in this area, which is true. But the council, as the oversight body, is responsible for evaluating whether those are good or bad decisions and then taking action based upon their assessment of the chancellor's performance. And the only way to make the chancellor do this is statutory at this point, because people have asked him multiple times, parents have asked him, state boards asked him, and he has unequivocally said he believes he should be reporting families to CFSA for child neglect. And he says he unequivocally is not going to do these assessments right now, despite DCPS having hundreds of staff that could do these assessments. He won't do the assessments until the fall, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to put the children through this. So I think we really need the council to step up its oversight role and approve this legislation, because
We need
otherwise,
them to bring up the legislation. It doesn't sound like at this point it may not even pass if they bring it up.
well, I think the concern that I have in this is there has not been the type of push that's necessary from the council members to really understand this issue. I think they've been distracted, and this is something that there really is no excuse for. There is no justifiable reason why we are making children skip kindergarten, particularly when there was no notice to any pre-K facilities and no notice to families that this change was coming.
Okay, so I just need to sorry, it's late
Yep.
for us.
Oh, sorry, sorry, I
It's okay. I'm going to call on Commissioner Nowak here in a minute. We have this letter that basically is asking them to bring up the legislation that the State Board of Education is proposing.
Yes.
And I'm going to attach what you sent to me to the council. Who should we address that to? Should we send it to every council member?
It should go to all council members because any member can notice emergency legislation. So any member can move this legislation.
Okay.
I would just send it to council members of the District of Columbia, and and hopefully someone will take this up. I think there's a lot of momentum. This is getting in the news now, and
Yeah, it
people are
is.
becoming aware of what's happening to these kids and how the parents have done nothing wrong on this. And that is, to me, the greatest concern on this is the notice issue, is that people were caught completely by surprise by this large policy change.
Yeah.
No notice whatsoever of it.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, thanks, Eric, for being with us tonight. I have two questions for you. One is, has the chancellor or anybody in central office said what was the reason for the policy change writ large? Is there some sort of, capacity constraint at kindergarten level, and thus if they force all these people to go to first grade, they can sort of deal with a baby boom in the kindergarten age? And the second question is related to the truancy reporting. Can you hit that for us again? So if a student is in a private kindergarten or pre-K, they're reporting them as truant also?
Yep. Yeah, I'd be glad to cover both. So their position has shifted over time as to why they did this in the first place. The first thing they said is that they were required to. They said the law requires them to do all of these actions, and that it requires them to report families for truancy, that it requires them to hold people back. Now, obviously, they haven't done this for 2 decades and just started doing this now, and there's been no change to the law that occurred. So what changed was their interpretation of the law. In the DCMR, they're required to consider proficiency, and that's what they've always done. Now they're refusing to look at the proficiency of a child. No principal previously found any child who has not completed kindergarten to be proficient. So it's never been an issue. But what they've said is their hands are tied. They've now reinterpreted truancy, and they no longer find a pre-K program, a 5-day-a-week pre-K 4 program, to be considered school for the purposes of truancy. So they have said, and they told 2 families that they had to pull kids out of pre-K 4 programs with a month and a half left in the school year. And if they did not enroll those kids in DCPS, they were going to report them to CFSA for truancy and child neglect. And they did so soon afterwards. They told another family that had moved in from out of state, whose kid could not attend kindergarten in that home state. So the state had a cutoff of July 31st. The family moved into DC with about a month and a half left in the school year. The child who has a September birthday was unable to attend kindergarten in their home state because they were still 4 years old at July 31st. So they move into DC, try to enroll for kindergarten. DCPS says, no, we're not going to let you in anymore. Even though we always used to be that a child could then pick whether they wanted to do kindergarten or first grade. That's not what DCPS is doing anymore. They threatened the family and said, we're going to report you if you keep bothering us for child neglect, because you need to enroll your kid with a month and a half left in the school year in DCPS kindergarten. And the family's like, no, I'm not doing that. We're going to send our kid back to our home state to live with relatives because we're not going to subject them to this type of harassment. And there's no excuse for it. I mean, Chancellor Farabee claims his hands are tied on this. I don't believe him for 1 second because he's never done this before. I think all of it is trying to justify the actions of one principal who has made very suspect decisions in the past. Some people saw the strange behavior where she didn't want children going outside because she felt the playground equipment was too slippery in the winter. And then the parents had to write a letter saying, we want children to be able to go outside.
Okay,
So,
I'm sorry, Eric.
Sorry, I'm just.
I know. It's
very
very
concerning.
frustrating. I've heard from many people on this. I'm gonna, Commissioner Elkins, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking at this letter and wondering whether it is strong enough.
Probably not.
And so I'm thinking about an amendment to the letter,
Go ahead.
but I'm not sure what it should be. I did write one, I think I get the right one here. Oh dear, I probably don't have it up on my screen. Bear with me just a second.
No problem.
Let me just talk it through. I think that the last paragraph in the letter diverts the topic. I see that the last sentence of the next to the last paragraph says we urge the council to enact legislation. I think that needs to be the bottom line. And I think the last paragraph, I mean, they're going to read this thing quickly. I'm afraid they're going to miss that. Maybe just the easiest amendment is take that last sentence of the next to the last paragraph and move it down to the very bottom and put it in bold. And I think that might make the point. Thank you.
I think I like the idea of closing with and we urge the council to enact the legislation. I like the sentence that commissioners, that there's evidence that correlates kindergarten with future outcomes. I think perhaps that can be moved up higher into the second paragraph. And then maybe we drop out the September 30th deadline, because that's sort of a different issue than what we're dealing with here today. Right now, we just need them to deal with the kids that, you know, are caught up in this mess. And then the September 30th thing we can come back to at a later date.
Okay, so I'm going to take it as a friendly amendment to take out, it may be prudent for the city to conduct a study on whether the September 30th deadline for school enrollment is the best policy for all students, blah, blah, blah. We're eliminating that. And we're making bold we urge the council to enact the legislation submitted by the State Board of Education on an emergency basis. And we make that the last sentence. And Eric, I just want to ask, have you submitted that? You've sent that to the council members, right?
Yes, it's been formally transmitted by our staff, and it is on their council legislative information management system. So it can be looked up there. I could give you, if you want, the bill numbers right now.
It's okay. Luckily, I'm the start marshal at the 4th of July parade, and I'm going to see every single council member on Friday. So.
Wonderful.
But Eric, if you send that over, I think it would be worthwhile for us to put it into the letter. We don't need it right now. But Madam Chair, I think that we can throw that into the letter just to.
He sent it to us, and I think Catherine actually ended up moments before the meeting putting it on the website because I sent it to her. So I will attach it to this letter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And like I said, this is something over the last month that I have gotten.
May I just say, I want to thank you all for your leadership on this. Really means a lot, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, thanks for calling it to our attention.
Your leadership, like you're the ship sailing here. Commissioner Elkins?
I just wanted to say to Eric that we'd be, I think I can speak for the whole commission. We would love to see you anytime that you would like to come and talk to us about school issues. So feel welcome, and maybe we'll send you some invitations too and say, please come. Okay.
Thank you.
I think our problem is we have meetings on the same night. Is that true?
Yeah.
Sometimes. But we were able to make it work here, and I'm still at the state board's office right now. So what I would also say is I've been appointed now as the chair of the Student Experience and Engagement Committee. One of the things we want to try to tackle is student safety, bullying, and truancy issues in the fall. So if there's other issues you think we should look at, or if there's angles on that you've heard from your constituents, please let me know. And we've got a great student advisory committee that we're working with on that as well. And they're going to give me kind of a list of their priorities for the fall. And I love working with the students that we have on our student advisory committee. So let me know if there's anything that is on your agenda, and feel free to email or call me anytime.
Thank you.
And I'll be glad to come to future meetings. I would love the invite and love to kind of come talk about the work of the board in the fall.
Thank you very much. All right, motion on the floor is to send this letter to every council member as amended. All those in favor? All right, motion passes unanimously. We are moving on to parking space addition request in front of CVS. Motion on the floor is to approve sending this letter to DDOT. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. CVS used to be a movie theater. They have this huge area in front of their entrance that has no parking entrance sign. And then they have a commercial loading zone, and then they have metered parking. And because it's no longer a movie theater, and we're pretty sure there's going to be some fantastic retail going into the Fitzgerald, I thought we'd ask DDOT to remove the entrance sign. There will be one amendment to the letter posted online. I'd written in there that there is a commercial loading zone nearby that ends at 4 p.m. That is not true. The commercial loading zone in front of Sweet Agave ends at 6:30. I have been told by someone somewhere along the way that the commercial loading zone is the commercial loading zone and they end at 6:30. So we could ask them to take a look at this. Bernie and I have reached out to CVS, sort of their real estate people. We heard nothing. The people at the store say that the commercial loading zone is used all the time. So I would like to take out my, can you shorten this to 4 p.m. Based on other commercial loading zones, because it's just not accurate. And I'd like to open it up for comments.
I just have a question. Are you proposing that the loading zone be moved into the current entranceway, or the entranceway itself become parking, and thus we'd have parking, loading, parking?
Parking, loading, parking.
Okay.
Part of that is because they might hand truck some stuff into the front of the store, but they have like a side door there.
Yeah, so to that end, wouldn't it make sense to make loading closer to, what is that, U Street, B Street? Wouldn't it make sense for the loading zone to be closer to the corner, and then go loading and then contiguous parking all the way down?
Maybe, I don't know if they load stuff into the store through that side door. Probably not. It's a big building. I don't know what goes behind behind the scenes there.
We can leave that to the Department of Transportation to work out with CVS.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
They can get hold of the regional director.
Yeah. One thing also, there's a huge amount of space from U Street to the no parking entrance. So I think that we could get some parking in the entrance, but I think we can even get an additional car there. It might be safer for visibility reasons to put the commercial towards the thing. Okay, so maybe in the letter, I'll add a sentence that maybe that would be a second option that they could look at. All right, friendly amendment. There's going to be a sentence in the letter about an option to flip the commercial with the entrance. I just thought changing the existing signs would be super easy and be, a 311 request that they could fulfill with, $50.
Mhm.
Um,
have a better opinion, I think, of the ease of getting things.
Awfully optimistic.
all those in favor as to the letter as amended? All right, another unanimous. Up next, Commissioner Nowak, would you like to make a motion about the high school construction working hours?
Yeah, so as this commission has discussed previously, MacArthur High School continues to undergo renovations to grow and improve the facilities there. We had previously approved working on federal holidays or district holidays, which is not standard. The construction team has now asked us to authorize Sunday parking as well, or Sunday work as well. Normally that would be sort of a pro forma thing for us to approve, but I do want to call out to the commission in full transparency that I have been receiving a number of communications from neighbors around the school that they're having problems with contractors parking in the residential area. And I have brought this back to the construction team saying that any sort of concessions that have been provided by the ANC in the past have been predicated on maintaining good relationships with the neighbors and abiding by the rules as posted. As such, the proposal that I am offering today is one that we do approve these Sunday hours, but that we include a provision that we will check in monthly with neighbors. And in the event that the parking remains a problem, that we reserve the right to rescind this extension of the hours. It's the only leverage that we have, frankly. And I hate to just, give them everything they ask for and us not have any ability to get them to be good neighbors to our constituents. So I guess a second for a letter to that effect. And my apologies that I don't have it drafted, but this has just happened in the past couple of days.
Commissioner Elkins seconds the motion. I just want to make a comment that I don't know if everyone was part of the emails or just some of us were part of the emails of the construction company saying, hey, will you approve this? And Commissioner Nowak was really looking out for their neighbors there. So well done. Motion on the floor is to approve these hours with the stipulation there would be a monthly check-in with neighbors on construction parking. All those in favor? All right, passes unanimously. That concludes our official business. Do any commissioners have any new business? All right, I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Elkins for the QFR.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you see my quarterly report here?
Yep.
I'm happy to report that we received another allotment of $4,400. This brings us to the point that thanks to the good work of previous treasurers, particularly Commissioner Nowak, that we have now received all the allotments for fiscal year 2024. So we're on schedule. We would not expect to have received allotments for this year yet, but I'm hoping that we will. I think we're all in compliance. So if I turn us to the next page here, these are all fairly normal things. A couple of cleanup things with regard to GoDaddy and Dropbox related to our website, and our administrator, of course, is paid. And bear with me here. We have our grant to Hardy Middle School, which we paid, and we have our grant to the Palisades Community Association. So it's all in order. So I therefore would ask for, I would move that we approve the QFR and ask for a second.
Commissioner Blumenthal seconds the motion. All right, are there any questions? Thank you. This work is just behind the scenes and there's a lot of reporting. I like to say it's easier to steal $3 million from the housing fund than it is to steal $18 from an ANC. That's my cynical self. Commissioner Simcoe is not here, but I'm going to call the vote anyway. All those in favor? Passes 5 to 1.
I think Commissioner Simkowitz' chair voted yes. I have a hunch.
Okay.
But I guess 5 is enough. So it's.
I think it did. Commissioner Nowak, approval of the minutes?
Yes, we're in July now. The June minutes were circulated to commissioners a few weeks back. Hearing no amendments to same, I would request a second to approve the minutes as written.
Second, Commissioner Duncan seconds the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes? There we go. Let's talk about, that passes unanimously. Let's talk about August. Do we need?
I'm
do we need
against
a
it.
meeting? I'm against.
It's too humid. I vote no on August.
I am trying. I'm trying to think of something that we need to bring up in August. I would like to say that maybe we don't need a meeting in August unless something comes up.
Yes, I think it could be at the call of the chair. And it could be a fairly short meeting, although we are legally required, I believe, if it is a monthly meeting, to have comments from the public. But otherwise, we have public comments and then just 1 or 2 items and we could be out the door.
Okay, I am not announcing the meeting in August because we might not have one, but I might say our next official meeting is going to be September 3rd. Also, the Transportation Committee is scheduled to meet Tuesday, actually it's not Tuesdays. I think it's Thursday the 24th at 1 p.m. That'll be posted on the listserv. I can't my brain is fried. It's late. Does anyone have anything else they would like to say? Quentin, it's good to see you. Without objection, the meeting is adjourned.
Good night, all.
Good night. Catherine,
Thank
thank you for a great
Thank you,
meeting.
Catherine.